Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Southwest.
Your Rangers opened their weekend set with the Angels doing the things they need to do to win. Good pitching and timely hitting gave them game one of this important series and ran their win streak to 3. Tonight, Giovanni Gallardo looks to keep Trout and company down when the Rangers meet the rival Angels next on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T Uverse TV. Now another gorgeous night here at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. Not a cloud in the sky, a lot of fans coming in to Angel Stadium as they get ready to watch Game 2 of this 3-game series, the Rangers and the Angels. And welcome in everyone, along with Mark McLemore, Steve Busby. Glad you decided to spend part of your Saturday night with us watching Ranger baseball. See if the Rangers can make it 2 in a row over these Angels and 4 in a row on this road trip. And Mac, a good pitching matchup tonight. Hector Santiago, a first-time All-Star for the Angels. Giovanni Gallardo, who could have been an All-Star for the Rangers.
You're right, Buzz. It's the premier matchup. Two of the better pitchers in the league. Hector Santiago for the Angels, and he's done a pretty good job on the Rangers so far this year with a 2-0 record. But we've also got Giovanni Gallardo going for the Rangers, and he's been pitching extremely well over his last 6 or 7 outings. So he's looking to get back to form after a pretty bad outing, pretty shaky outing his last time. So a premier matchup here tonight in Anaheim.
Hector Santiago, of course, left-hander that's given the Rangers problems. Left-handers in general have given them problems. And Giovanni Gallardo has not had a lot of runs scored for him in support. And the Rangers hope to turn both those things around here tonight. So the Rangers and the Angels hooking it up in Game 2. Delino to Shields will lead things off when we come back. Follow the Rangers right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer to kick off the summer right. Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T UVerse TV. UVerse has more live TV channels on the go than cable. By Budweiser. Make a plan to make it home. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. A beautiful shot of Queen Mary down in Long Beach Harbor, and one of the many, many sights here in Southern California. Another one, Angel Stadium. That's where we are right now. And before we get things started in Game 2 of this series, let's sit down and check in with Jim Knox. Jim?
I appreciate it, Buzz. Ranger fans are looking for Giovanni Gallardo to get back on track. You know, after that short outing against the Astros, I talked to him this afternoon, and he said he can hardly wait to get back on the mound.
It worked a little bit different things on my bullpen. And most importantly, you know, just commanding the baseball, just a little bit more fastballs over the plate, and you know, but yet again, I try not to think about it too much. You know, it's one of those things that throughout the year you're gonna have starts like that, and you know, it's just a matter of bouncing back and getting back right on track.
So Buzz, Giovanni looking to keep the momentum going for the Rangers right now and send these Ranger fans from Mansfield back home happy, of course, after a Ranger win. Buzz?
All right, Knoxy, thank you. Hey, get them all over the place out here in Southern California, from Mansfield, Texas, and all the Ranger fans traveling in to Anaheim. Well, Rangers taking on the Angels tonight. Mark McLemore is going to tell you about the Texas Rangers Southwest Airlines starting lineup.
All right, leading off for the Rangers, Delino DeShields will be in center field. Rougned Odor will bat second and play second. Adrian Gonzalez will bat third. Adrian Beltre will bat third and play third base. Prince Fielder is the cleanup hitter, and he'll DH. Elvis Andrews is the shortstop. He'll hit sixth. Adam Rosales will play first base. Shin Soo Choo will hit seventh and play right field. Ryan Rua is in left. He'll bat eighth. And Robinson Chirinos do the catching and bat ninth.
And that lineup will face Hector Santiago. Kind of a crafty left-hander with very, very good stuff. Got a good live fastball. Not overpowering, but couple that with a changeup that he has. It is a good one, and that's a pretty tough combination. His confidence has really grown this year. He is coming into his own as a Major League starter. His first All-Star selection with the Angels. And Hector Santiago has been nothing but nails of late. Oh, he has shut the opposition down. His last 5 starts, he has not given up more than 1 run in any of them. 5 consecutive starts, and that's the second longest streak in Angel franchise history of that kind. And we'll take a look at the defense that will back up Hector Santiago tonight. Outfield has Kyle Kubica in left field. We'll talk a little more about that as the game goes on. Mike Trout in center and Cole Calhoun in right. Pujols back in the lineup at first. Giovattel and Ibar up the middle. Gillespie is at third. And Chris Iannetta is catching the first pitch of the night. Hit in the air to center field. Easy play for Mike Trout. And 1 pitch, 1 away. Delino DeShields having an idea what he was going to expect from Hector Santiago. Got it, but popped it up.
Yeah, one of the things Santiago doesn't do, he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. So if he's going to be around the plate, it's something that the Rangers like. They're going to try and jump on it.
Exactly what Delino DeShields did. That pitch moving a little bit away from him. So Delino pops out. Now Rougned Odor. 1 ball, no strikes. Odor stepping in, hitting at .264 for the year. Half a dozen home runs and 30 runs driven in. And he has been a terror against Santiago. You see at .455 average for Odor. And 5 out of 11 with 2 runs driven in. And Santiago doesn't give up a whole lot to left-handers, but Odor, one of the southpaw hitters that really has had good luck against him. And Odor comes into this game swinging the bat well overall. He has hit .387 on this trip, gone 12 for 31. That ball is hammered to right field. Calhoun stopping to watch this one go. Goodbye. Rougned Odor, his 7th home run of the year. He is just eating Hector Santiago alive, and the Rangers lead it 1-0.
Only the 3rd home run that Hector Santiago's given up to a left-hander in 280 at-bats against left-handers. And that goes back to 2014, so you don't see that a lot. Rugi gets a pitch up, out over the middle of the plate, gets some extension on it, and he knows it as soon as he hit it.
out into the sun-bathed bleachers still in right field. And the Rangers very quickly 1-0. Ouch.
Nice sound when it comes from our side.
Sounds like somebody hitting a oak plank with a hammer. It just scares me to death. But you're right, it is much more tolerable when it's one of the Rangers that does that. So Odor with his 7th home run of the year. Rangers jump out on top. Adrian Beltre goes after the next pitch and pops it up. Giovanella backpedaling into shallow right field, making the call on the catch for out number 2. Well, Beltre, a .259 hitter before that at bat. He will go back to the Ranger dugout. 2 gone, bases empty for Prince Fielder. Interesting tonight that Jeff Bannister has flip-flopped Adrian Beltre and Prince Fielder with a left-hander on the mound, maybe figuring that Prince and Adrian would be better served by backing each other up in a little bit different capacity.
Yeah, I think, getting Beltre up in that first inning against a left-hander, is probably a good idea, and for me, either one doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you want to give a different look, obviously, but I think they both accomplished the same thing. But I think, in my mind, I think Banny wanted to get Beltre up in that first inning against the left-hander.
And Prince drills one but pulls it foul. Down the right side, back into the seats. And, you look at the way the lineup's constructed, Mac. If you had Prince hitting third and Beltre hitting fourth, you'd have 2 left-handers together and then 4 right-handers together. And I think the Bannister wanted to break those 2 combinations up a little bit.
Yeah, you've got to split it up, especially against a tough left-hander like Santiago. If you've got a guy that throws the way that he does, and you've got 4 left-handers, he gets that run against 4 left-handers in a row, you're not going to be able to generate much offense.
Yeah. Santiago back to Fielder. The pitch just off the outer edge. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Prince hitting at .338 with 15 home runs, 58 driven in. Took an 0 for 3 last night, and that snapped his 5-game hitting streak. But still one of the most consistent hitters in baseball, and he is still second with that .338 average. 2-2, and the count runs full. The Fielder trying to get aboard with 2 outs here in the first. Elvis Andrus waits in the on-deck circle. 1-0 Rangers, courtesy of Rougned Odor in the long ball. Outside, ball 4. He couldn't entice Prince Fielder to go after that hook. And the 2-out walk will bring up Elvis.
Great at bat by Prince. Behind in the count. Still able to work a walk.
The Fielder aboard. Elvis Andrus moving up to the 5th spot tonight. Hitting at .249. He's been on a pretty good roll. .321 on this road trip. Elvis gone 9 for 28. And I guess just as importantly, has driven in 4. As he takes strike 1 from Santiago. Elvis, a 4-game hitting streak, 6 out of 17. And you go back over the last 10 ball games. Elvis, one of the hotter hitters on the Ranger club, hitting at .351. A ball and a strike to count. Santiago sets at the belt. Misses inside. 2 balls and a strike. Well, the Rangers making Santiago work a bit here in the first. It's not a hot night. It's warm. In Southern California standards, it's fairly warm. There's a strike at the knees. 86 degrees at game time, and folks back in the Metroplex say that's midnight temperature, 1 o'clock in the morning temperature.
That's the low tonight.
Not humidity, about 45%, 46%, so not terrible. And Elvis gone on strikes. That tailing fastball got him. Rangers in the first get a run on a hit. Rougned Odor's 7th home run of the year. They strand 1 after a half inning. Rougned Odor and the Rangers 1, and the Angels coming up. Angels starting lineup.
All right, leading off for the Angels, Johnny Giovatello will play second base. Cole Calhoun will be in right and bat second. Mike Trout's the center fielder. He'll bat third. Albert Pujols is the cleanup hitter playing first base. Eric Ibar, the shortstop, will bat fifth. C.J. Cron will bat sixth and DH. Connor Gillespie will bat seventh and play third base. Chris Iannetta will do the catching and bat eighth. And Kyle Kavitsa will be in left, batting ninth.
And that is the lineup that 29-year-old right-hander Giovanni Gallardo will face. Right-hander out of Fort Worth, Texas, Trimble Tech High School. And he deals ball one. Gallardo 7-9, but that 2.91 ERA more indicative of how well he's thrown the ball. Trying to bounce back from one of his toughest outings of the year last time in Houston. Just worked 4 innings in that ball game. But other than that, he has really been strong. His first career appearance against the Angels tonight. He's faced a few of the Angel hitters in the National League, but he should be able to use that lack of appearances against them to his advantage. He's a very cerebral pitcher. He knows how to take advantage of the pluses of hitters not having seen him before. 2 balls and a strike, the count to Giovatello. Second baseman hitting at .265 with 3 home runs and 35 RBI. A cutter off the outside corner. It's now 3-1. Giovatello leading things off, to be followed by the right fielder Cole Calhoun. Gallardo back to the plate and fires one for a strike. It is 3-2.
The Angels not having seen, or most of the Angels not having seen Gallardo, I think is definitely going to be an advantage, especially the first couple of times through. And hopefully he'll be able to make that adjustment that third time through and keep him down, keep him off balance.
Yeah, Iannetta and Pujols, the only 2 in the lineup for the Angels that have had any experience against Giovanni at all. Payoff pitch outside. Giovatello draws the leadoff walk. A 1 on, nobody out. Cole Calhoun coming up. And we'll take a look at the Ranger defense tonight, delivered to you by DeMontron RV. Now the right-handed version of the Ranger lineup in the outfield, Ryan Rua in left. Delino DeShields in center. Shin-Soo Choo is in right. Adam Rosales to start at first. Odor and Andrews up the middle. Beltre at third. And Robinson Chirinos again behind the plate for Giovanni Gallardo. And the Rangers did something in that first inning they have not done for Gallardo in the last 4 ball games. They scored a run. They had gone 4 consecutive outings without putting a run on the board when Gallardo was in the game.
Yeah, and you look at his record at 7-9. These last 4 games are not the only games they really hadn't given him a whole lot of run support. It just so happens these 4 they hadn't given him any early in the season. I mean, he might have been getting 1 or 2 runs at most for him, so his record could definitely be a lot better. But his ERA is really indicative of how he's been throwing all season.
Calhoun takes the pitch in at the knees. It is 1-1. Now the run support will give you an idea. It's a 2.91, which is the 4th lowest in the American League. And that's overall. This is Giovanni's 21st start of the year. So it has been very meager. Corey Kluber, Jared Weaver, Jose Quintana, the only ones with less run support. Calhoun gets fisted. A rower to Odor, and he goes to second, almost handcuffed. Elvis Andrews surprised as anybody where that ball was thrown. Maybe didn't see it.
He probably didn't see it. It's kind of tough. It's spotty over there behind Odor. If you look on the first base side, you've got shadows playing in the stands there, but Odor was also about 45 feet away and threw it about 95 at Elvis. So that made it a little difficult for Elvis to pick it up. Fortunately, it was chest high, and Elvis didn't really have to bend down for it, because if he had to bend, that ball's probably down the left field line.
Man, Elvis showing Rugdad exactly what he saw, which was not much. No, a very big one out. Calhoun now at first. Here's Mike Trout. And he takes just low for ball 1. Trout last night with his 29th home run of the year. He has tied teammate Albert Pujols for the league and major league lead in home runs, 29 of them. Trout with 59 runs driven in, hitting at .306. Ground ball up the middle. That's into center field, a base hit. Calhoun rounding second. He's going to motor into third. And so the outfield playing deep. It took the liner to Shields a while to get to the ball. And Calhoun read that and kept on going. The Angels have runners at the corners and one out for Albert Pujols.
Yeah, chopper back up the middle. Elvis is left, so that chopper number one, Calhoun can run a little bit. It's going to give him an opportunity to get around to third base. And Lionel DeShields playing Trout deep, which is what he's supposed to do. And able Trout to come all the way around to third.
Saw Rugnev's reaction as if, doggone it, I should have gone after it.
Yeah,
but that was after the fact.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that he had a play on it anyway. But as an infielder, that's what you want to think. You want to think you can get everything.
Sure. Well, now here's a guy that has had experience against Gallardo and positive experience if you're Albert Pujols. Trout on the move to throw to second, not in time. And back to third, Calhoun not straying far off. So Trout with a stolen base. And we'll see if that takes the bat out of Pujols' hands. The pitch was a ball, I believe. Throw to second, Trout easily in with his 10th stolen base of the year. So now runners at second and third.
See Trout take off, great jump. Odor fires it over to Beltre. Like he kind of handcuffed him a little bit there.
A 1-0 the count. Pujols has had great success against Gallardo. Almost a 500 hitter. He's 14 for 29. And those are the numbers, 14 or 12 for 27 just in regular season, including postseason. Pujols, a 483 hitter. He takes that first pitch on the inside corner for strike one.
Yeah, a few plays here so far in this inning that Odor's been a part of. He threw one to Elvis that was pretty hot. And then just threw one over to Beltre that was pretty high. He was about 80 feet away from Beltre and almost handcuffed him. So I'm not sure if he kind of got that thumb a little bit and maybe aggravated a little bit.
Gallardo working from the stretch. The 1-1 pitch bounces in. Chirinos a nice job of getting in front of it to keep it around home plate. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to do is hurt Avian on the throw to him. You know, he has enough problems managing at bats and things like that, much less one of his teammates trying to fire a ball through his hand.
And honestly, an unnecessary throw. Calhoun wasn't off far enough for Odor to really have a shot at getting to third base.
2-1 to Pujols. Rangers with the infield back, runners at second and third. Gallardo to the plate. A good breaking ball is chopped foul. It's 2-2. Well, Pujols last night really worked over by Colby Lewis. Colby had that good slider going, and Albert Pujols took some very un-Pujols-like swings against Colby.
Yes, he did. When you see hitters like Pujols or Trout or good hitters like that have bad swings, you got to tip your hat to the pitcher because he's doing something awfully good to fool him.
Hit slowly to the right side. That's going to get the run home. In to score Calhoun. Pujols, a run producer, shows you why. And he just tapped that ball to the right side. He ties the ball game with his 62nd RBI of the year. And there are 2 outs now with Trout down at third.
Pujols, being the experienced run producer that he is, just needed to make contact. The infield is back. Put the ball in play on the ground. Here's a run, ties the ball game up. Not trying to, hit a 3-run homer in that particular pitch, being down in the count. Just put the ball in play, get the job done.
If you'd hung him the pitch, he would have been glad to take a 3-run home run.
This is true. This is so true.
He would not have settled for one. But a good job by Gallardo to keep the ball in the infield and make it a 1-run excursion that time to the plate for Pujols. Eric Ibar now, switch hitting shortstop up there. Ibar, a 282 hitter. Couple of home runs, 31 driven in. 1 ball, no strikes. Mike Trout, the runner down at third. A 1-1 ball game here in the bottom of the first. Ibar been on a tear for the last month now, going back to June 19th. He has hit .369. But as you can tell, the last 3 ball games have not been kind to him. 2 balls, no strikes. Ibar 091 for the last 3. And Giovanni Gallardo, and you'd heard him talking to Jim Knox before the game tonight, that he wanted to command the fastball better. He said last time out, as far as he was concerned, was one of those games where nothing worked right. He didn't have command of the fastball. He said he made a very concerted effort between starts to work on fastball command. And you're seeing spots here where it's just getting away from him a little bit again.
Yeah, it looks to me like he's having trouble with that release point. It's just not being consistent. And you can tell me better, what that does to a pitcher. I can tell from looking at him if a pitcher's having trouble, if he's coming from 2 or maybe sometimes even 3 different spots.
Right.
It may be minute, but you can pick it up.
Fastball for a strike. Yeah, and what you see, Mac, I think as a hitter, you would probably see a lot more body motion as the guy's throwing. And what you see where the hand varies, its location as you're releasing the ball, is the body is in different points in the motion when you're ready to throw it. It's not in the same spot every time. So I think you pick that up as a hitter. You say, oh, we got this guy. He's struggling right now.
Yes, I like that.
And there's the walk. Second walk of the inning. Ibar trots down to first. And C.J. Crone now will come up with runners at the corners. Mike Maddox, of course, worked with Giovanni Gallardo for much of his early career at the big league level in Milwaukee. Knows Giovanni as well as anybody. And Mike, always very impressed with the work ethic of Giovanni Gallardo. He's nothing gets by this guy. He's not going to leave any stone unturned for the work he has to do.
Well, Gallardo knows how to pitch, and he knows the adjustments that he needs to make and when he needs to make them. He's that guy that can make his adjustments out there on the mound. Doesn't have to wait necessarily to come into the dugout and have the pitching coach tell him.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that only comes with experience. That's not something you can read in a book or have somebody tell you and say, okay, I'll do that. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's just called knowing yourself. Just Same as a hitter, you've got to know yourself. When I'm doing this wrong, when I leave the ball high or outside, or I'm yanking it, this is what I need to do to correct it.
First pitch to Crone, and that is just a bit outside for ball 1. Crone, a .265 average. He was the DH last night, or I should say the first baseman last night with Pujols DHing. Crone now back in the DH spot. He's in a mild downturn, 0 for 8, but he's always found the Rangers kind of brought him out of any offensive funk that he was in. Pretty good breaking ball that settles a little bit low, and it's 2 balls, no strikes. Well, Giovanni, a little perplexed right at the moment. He is trying to make those adjustments, Mac, you were talking about, and from one pitch to the next, it's when you're in a situation like this, it's almost like, okay, I've got to rule out adjustment A, B, C, D, and E until you find one that works for you on this night. And that'll do it for the first inning. A little flip to second, and Ibar is forced. A run on 1 hit, and 2 are left for the Angels. We've played 1. It's the Rangers 1 and the Angels 1. Hot dog happy hour has just been announced for Wednesday the 29th. Dollar dogs will be available at the time gates open until 7 p.m. And that's while supplies last. Great seats are still available for all the Yankee games. Visit TexasRangers.com or call 972-RANGERS to get yours. That's Dollar Dog Happy Hour. That's a first. Sounds like a good one, too. Adam Rosales starting things off for the Rangers here in the second inning. A 1-1 ball game now as the Angels and Rangers put one on the board in the first inning. Rosales, a .235 average. 3 home runs, 7 driven in. 3 out of 12 in his career against Hector Santiago. Santiago, part of that 3-team trade that sent Mark Trumbo over to the Diamondbacks, brought Santiago out here to the Angels before the 2014 season. Pitch to Rosales is in, and it's 2-2. Rangers have been scorching the baseball lately. The last 4 ball games, they've been averaging 7.5 runs a game. And Adam Rosales caught window shopping of that Santiago fastball. Looks like Santiago's fastball is really tailing against right-handers, and that started inside and tailed back to the corner.
Yeah, he's got that one working. He threw one early in the first inning. Got a strikeout of Elvis and kind of just took off. That was about 88 miles an hour, but it looks a lot faster, especially with his changeup working.
1 out for Shin-Soo Choo. 1 ball, no strikes. Choo at .235, a dozen home runs, and 44 RBI. Talking about the Rangers, and 30 runs scored their last 4 ball games coming into play tonight. During that time, they've hit .304, but you go back over the entire road trip, 7 ball games, they have hit .314. 6 home runs on this trip. There's the graphically for you, 39 runs on the 7 games, .314, 28 extra base hits. I know that Jeff Bannister commenting about the offense getting back to more of a semblance of what they expected. Quick reactions by Santiago to take that hot one-hopper. Out number 2. Next will be Ryan Rua. And tonight with Hector Santiago on the mound, we're going to show you the Kubota Power Stats feature for you. Talking about the left-hander, last 5 starts, he has been something. 3-0, a 1.13 ERA, opponents hitting just barely over 200. 30 strikeouts and 5 walks in that time span. Last time out, 10 strikeouts. And he has not given up more than 1 run in any of those 5 games. Rua takes a strike.
Yeah, I think that's good if you like that kind of pitching from anybody. 1 run in one run each in his last 5 starts. That's getting the job done.
Yeah, it is. Actually, he had 1 game in there where he didn't give up any. So he kind of broke the streak that way. But apparently he didn't feel like giving him a run.
A little stingy that day.
Yeah, that was against the Rangers. That was the game that he shut the Rangers out for 7 innings on 3 hits. 4th of July, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Rua rips one foul down the third base side. Ball hooking at the last minute and about 10 feet foul. Ryan getting the start tonight, and 177 the average. 3 runs driven in, all the result of 3 solo home runs. Diving stop by Gillespie, who gets up and throws him out. Connor Gillespie paying dividends for the Angels, who acquired him yesterday. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Santiago. After 1.5, Rangers 1, Angels 1, Fox Sports Southwest. Just use hashtag Southwest Data StrongFan, and you just might see yourself on one of our upcoming broadcasts. All this made possible by the good folks at T-Mobile. We'll show you our strongest fan selection a little bit later on. Yovani Gallardo to work here in the bottom of the second. He will face the bottom third of the Angels order. Connor Gillespie is first at bat as an Angel. And he takes inside and low for ball one. Gillespie acquired for cash considerations from the White Sox by the Angels. The Angels lost David Freese to an injury. He's going to be out for several weeks, and they had to go out and get some insurance. They felt a seasoned infielder, and Connor Gillespie fit the bill. Out of play to the left, 1 ball and 1 strike. Angels come into play tonight at 54 and 42. They are in a virtual tie with the Houston Astros prior to play this evening. Angels have a percentage points lead at about 2/thousandth of a percentage point over the Astros. And a base hit by Gillespie to left field. Rangers in an overshift. There was nobody on the left side save Adrian Beltre, and he was toward the line. No, Gillespie, a leadoff single, and Chris Iannetta will be next.
Arnold got that one out over the middle of the plate. Gillespie took it where he threw it, right there to left field.
So Gillespie aboard. Chris Iannetta, the catcher, checking with the third base coach, Gary DeSarcina. See what Mike Scioscia might have in mind. A 1-1 ball game in the second. Scioscia, of course, very big at times on using a sacrifice bunt early in a ball game. Mike called by many old school, but almost 1,400 wins later, I think whatever school you want to apply to him is pretty good.
And a World Series?
And a World Series.
Yes, you can call him whatever you want, but he's gotten it done.
No bunt there as Iannetta swung through a Gallardo fastball. Iannetta, another one of the former National Leaguers that has had a few at-bats against Yovani Gallardo. See Iannetta the last 3 ball games, swinging the bat pretty well, a couple of home runs and a .364 average. 1 for 4 against Gallardo is Chris Iannetta. 0-1 pitch. 0-2. Gallardo going inside outside with the fastball, and he is ahead of Iannetta.
Iannetta been swinging the bat until last night. Had a rough night last night. 0 for 4 punch outs.
Yep. Gallardo checks Gillespie at first. Just missed the outside corner. Well, whatever was bothering Yovani in the first inning with fastball command, it's gone.
He figured it out.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Got a little zip to it. Much better command of it. And it's kind of, what's been going on with him his last few outings. That first inning, maybe, and then I think 1 or 2 outings, even the second inning, he was a little wobbly, and then all of a sudden just straightened things out.
Iannetta pops one up down the right field line. It's trouble. Odor in the move, but he comes up a little short, and the ball in foul territory bounces out of play. Still 1-2. Odor shading Iannetta up the middle. Had a long, long way to go.
Long way to go, and not a whole lot of room over there where the ball landed. So you've got to be careful when you're going for foul balls here in Anaheim.
We put in the Angel Stadium version of the commissioner's boxes down each line. Bring them out even with the end of the dugout. Cuts down the foul territory even more. Another 1-2 pitch. Instead is a toss to first. Gallardo, when asked about all the speculation surrounding him and others this time of year, the trade deadline coming up next Friday, kind of shrugged it off. Said, yeah, you hear it and you wonder. It's just natural. It's human nature to say what if, play the what if game. But he said, as far as preparation, going out and doing my job, nothing changes.
Yeah, and for a veteran player, I think it's easier to deal with as opposed to a younger player that's probably been in one organization his entire career or his short career. It's a little bit more difficult for them to concentrate and focus and know what they need to go out there and do each and every time, which is what they've been doing. It's gotten them in a position for other teams to want you.
Nice block by Junius. You saw a shot of John Daniels. He's at Angel Stadium with the ball club in this stop. John doesn't look particularly worried at the moment.
No. Then again, I don't think he ever looks particularly worried.
Not that I've seen. A full count to Iannetta. Popped up. Odor going out. Jew coming on. Makes the call and the catch. That is out number 1. Iannetta skies out on a 3-2 pitch. And Kyle Kubica now will come up. Good job by Gallardo to come back to get Iannetta. You mentioned the Angels, I should say, tied for first. They lost 2 in a row. It's been over a month since they've lost 3 in a row. That just hasn't happened to them. And some folks around the Angels camp saying, well, they're starting to show a few cracks. Still an awfully good ball club. Yeah. You have Trout and Pujols in the middle.
Last night's ball game, you got to tip your hat to Colby Lewis. He threw a tremendous game.
Yeah.
9 strikeouts, 7+ innings. So there are times, they ran up against a tough pitcher the day before, the last series against the Twins, and then got Colby Lewis last night. So it happens.
And probably good for Giovanni Gallardo to have the blueprint that Colby Lewis used last night to kind of give him an idea of what worked for Colby.
Right.
Similar stuff. Maybe an extra mile or 2 per hour on the fastball for Gallardo. But Colby last night had as good a slider as you're going to see.
Yeah, he was tremendous last night. That slider just kept the Angels off balance. And we saw a couple of really good hitters get fooled a couple of times. Not just one time, but a couple of times.
Gallardo and Chirinos talk things over. 2 balls, no strikes to Kubica. Kyle last night had a bunt single in that ball game for the Angels. And he takes high. It's 3 balls, no strikes. Well, Giovanni all of a sudden missing 3 straight to Kubica, the number 9 hitter. Giovotella, the leadoff man, is going to be next. Check a first 3-0 pitch. Outside and high, ball 4. That's already the 3rd walk of the game issued by Gallardo. Did I throw the kiss of death on him talking about the adjustments and how well they were working?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay, so yes is your answer. Like Maddox going to go out there and say, whatever you heard somebody say, forget it.
Not that we're superstitious or anything like that.
Exactly. Just don't like to take chances.
Right.
Mike out there to, as he usually does, order up that double play grounder.
6-4-3 variety or 5-4-3 tonight?
Man, let's see. With Giovotella, I'm going to go 4-6-3. Or the other way.
I think I'd rather go 6-4-3.
Okay.
Odor's throws have been a little hot early on.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So let's get it over to Elvis and let him get him a nice flip over there and let him throw a hot one to first. At least this time he'll be 90 feet away.
Yeah. All right. Well, Giovotella drew the leadoff walk tonight. That kind of set up the first inning that resulted in an Angels run. Talked last night about how successful the Angels have been when Giovotella has been their leadoff man. That's not going to be a double play, but it's going to be an out in right center field. Chu in front of Delano to Shields makes the catch. That is out number 2. Cole Calhoun will be next. Nice of Johnny Giovotella to be a little bit impatient after that first pitch.
Very impatient, not a quality at bat. Gallardo just threw 4 straight balls. Swings at the first pitch.
Yep. So 2 on now, 2 out. Cole Calhoun grounded into a fielder's choice. Gallardo really got in on Calhoun the first time up and jammed it. Hit a slow roller out to second base. Gallardo's first pitch. Low and inside for ball 1. Calhoun against the Rangers this year. .469 with 2 home runs and 11 runs driven in 8 ball games. That is doing some damage.
And just think, they pretty much shut him down last night.
That's right. There's a strike, 1-1. Yeah, last night he was 1 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts, which was nice to see. Calhoun turning into a pretty good power hitter. Didn't show that earlier in his career, but he's developed into that to the point where dropping him down a little bit into a power spot. Pretty good move for Mike Scioscia. Calhoun in his career a .317 hitter. Almost 150 at bats against the Rangers in his career. 2-1 the count. Connor Gillespie, who drew the throw from Robinson Chirinos, out at second. He's trailed by Kyle Kubica. Little nubber foul at home plate, trickling down the first base line. And the count evens now at 2 balls, 2 strikes. And again, with Calhoun up there, the Rangers in an extreme overshift. Elvis Andrus playing on the first base side of second by a couple of steps. Way out in right field, Rougned Odor. And of course, Adam Rosales playing right at the back edge of the infield dirt. Gallardo ready for the 2-2 pitch. Yank foul. We will try it again.
I know, Buzz, people still are amazed. You look at how the Rangers are lined up defensively, and you see the big giant hole over there at shortstop, and they're saying, why can't that guy just hit it over there in that hole? It's just not that easy. Just not that easy. Number one, the pitcher knows there's a hole over there, so he's trying to hit a spot to make you hit it where his defense is.
That breaking ball gets away from Chirinos, so the runners advance 90 feet. Gillespie to third, Kubica to second. They are both in scoring position now, and the wild pitch charged to Giovanni Gallardo.
Gallardo going with the breaking ball and just kicked up a little bit on Robbie. Kicked off to the left, did everything he could, but with that breaking ball, you've got some spin, so when that ball hits the ground, it's going to kick a little bit. And it kicked off of Robbie's chest.
And on top of that, it ran the count full to Cole Calhoun. The payoff pitch on the way. That ball is hit high and very deep and very foul. Little bit quick pulling the trigger. Got a low fastball, and Cole Calhoun's eyes had to light up on that one. So everybody resets, and we'll try it again. There's that number 7 right there at the low inside corner. Gallardo with another 3-2 coming. Base hit to right field. 1 run is home. Kubica around third. He's digging for the plate. He scores. A 2-run single by Cole Calhoun. The Angels have regained the lead. It is now 3-1.
Gallardo with a 3-2 pitch, had to go in there with a strike. Got Mike Trout on deck, trying to go up and in. Got it up, but just not in far enough. Calhoun delivers with a 2-run single.
Cole Calhoun now with 55 runs driven in. So you put he and Trout and Pujols back to back to back. You've got some serious run production for the Angels. Here is Trout, who singled his first time. Calhoun drawing a throw from Gallardo. Mike Trout now up to 308 for the year. He's had at least one hit in each of his last 3 ball games now. Takes high for ball 1. And again, the walk really played a big role in this inning. The walk to Kyle Kubica, the number 9 hitter, set up the opportunity for the Angels. Cole Calhoun came through with a 2-run single.
A 4-pitch walk to Kubica, then the pass ball gets both runners in the scoring position.
2-0. And in the first inning, it started with a leadoff walk to Giovotella. He didn't score, but Cole Calhoun, who grounded into a fielder's choice to erase Giovotella, did. Scored on Albert Pujols' RBI ground out. 2 balls, no strikes to Trout, and you need to be careful here. Trout taken all the way and looked at strike 1. Trout against the Rangers this year, that .371 average. In 10 ball games, he has driven in 6 and had 9 walks. Strike 2. Looks like Trout really trying to discipline himself to lay off anything above belt high.
He is, and it's probably a good idea. That's his cold zone. That's a pitch that he can't handle.
Now, he handled it last night, but it was in a fastball count where he was pretty assured that he was going to get one. It's out of play to the right.
And I'm pretty sure he can't handle that pitch of the 2 fastballs that Gallardo just threw top of the strike zone away. Right. He hit out last night against Colby was a fastball in, and like you said, he was looking for it, and it's not at 92, 93, which is where Gallardo is right now.
Right. I always thought that a hitter that could cover up his weakness by not swinging at a pitch there really created a problem for most pitchers.
Yeah, and if you can do that, you're challenging the pitcher. Hit that spot 3 times in a row, and if you do, I'm going to tip my hat. That's a difficult thing to do.
To right field, Chu in a hurry. He's not going to get there. It falls for a base hit. Coming around third, here comes the throw to the plate, and out at home plate is Cole Calhoun, who had slowed down going into third. He didn't think he would be waved home. And Aridides Arcina kept the go sign going, and Calhoun a dead duck. Well, that'll do it, but the Angels score a couple of times on 3 hits and leave 1 after 2, 3-1 Los Angeles. Rays will also enjoy a special post-game fireworks show set to Star Wars music, courtesy of Takis. There's also going to be a special appearance by the Star Wars characters out on the concourse. Visit TexasRangers.com/special and use the coupon code FIREWORKS for $14 upper reserve tickets. Well, the Angels, with 2 in the bottom of the second, have taken a 3-1 lead. Rangers come to bat here in the third. Robinson Chirinos, Delino DeShields, and Rougned Odor to face Hector Santiago. Left-hander fires strike 1 to Chirinos. Robinson at .223. 9 home runs, 31 driven in. He has had an excellent road trip. He's gone 6 for 18. The .333 mark on this trip. Santiago spins him around with a high-tight fastball, 1-1. Santiago now has retired 4 straight, a couple of strikeouts and a couple of groundouts since giving up the Rougned Odor home run in the first. Angels put 3 hits together for a couple of runs in the second. Fly ball to left field sends Kubica back. Mike Trout also into the alley. Mike Trout making the call, and the center fielder hauls it in for out number 1. And before we go back to the top of the order for Delino DeShields, we're going to send it back to Dana Larson, who has a Mazda game break. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, timing is everything, and that price point just went up several prospects, I think, for Cole Hamels. Forget the money, win with more prospects in return.
Exactly. Could possibly be his last outing in a Phillies uniform.
Could be.
He goes a no-hitter.
Could be, yeah. Well, I guess if you're going to go out, you might as well make a grand exit. He apparently tried his best. Came within a couple of walks of making a real perfect exit. Delino DeShields, who began things tonight by skying to center field. He's down on the count, no balls, 2 strikes to Hector Santiago. Little looper out into shallow center. Trout coming on, still coming on, and that burst of speed that he has enables him to come in and grab it for out number 2.
Second baseman, number 12,
Amazing watching Mike Trout, such a big guy out there. He's 6'2" and about 240 pounds, and he runs like a deer.
He can cover some ground. He's got that extra gear you hear a lot about that fast guys have. He's got it. That's one past overdrive for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Now 2 up, 2 away, and here is the Ranger offense tonight. Rougned Odor with his 7th home run of the year in the first. Taking ball 1 here. Odor now with 7 home runs, 31 RBI. Now has hit 3 home runs on this trip. And this is the 8th game for the Rangers. Had 3 in Houston, 3 in Colorado, and this is the 2nd of 3 here in Anaheim. Santiago into the wind, the 1-1 pitch. Rougned had about the same pitch that he hit out the first time and fouled it straight back. Our AT&T U-verse rewind will take you back to that first inning. Now, that pitch might have been a little more inside to him, but Rougned had such a quick swing. Boy, he just uncoils in a hurry, drives this one up the gap in right center field. That is in for extra bases. Trout able to cut it off before it gets to the wall, but not before Odor is in with a double. Rougned, who came a single shy of the cycle in Colorado the other day, has 2 legs of the cycle here tonight. Home run and double.
Well, he likes hitting off Santiago, that's for sure. Came into the ball game hitting .455, 5 for 11. You can add a couple of more hits to that tally. Drills this ball into the gap in right center field. Tough to get a triple here in Anaheim when you hit it to right center field. Pretty much you've got to hit it to center field or left center field and let it roll around a little bit.
Let me correct myself. He came a double shy of, I think I said a single. He came a double shy of the cycle on Wednesday afternoon in Colorado. So he just picked up the double.
There it is. Hit for the cycle on the trip at least.
Adrian Beltre takes inside. Beltre popped out to second back in the first inning. Adrian at 258. 7 home runs, 25 driven in. Beltre last night played in his 2,500th game. So tonight, 25-01. He is sneaking up on Julio Franco, who has played the most games of a native of the Dominican Republic. Franco played in 2,527. Of course, he was 63 years old when he finished playing, too.
This is so true. Yeah. But he was still effective.
He was still good. He still came off the bench and pinch hit and got base hits to right field. Low and inside. 3 balls and a strike. But it won't be long before Adrian Beltre will have played the most games of any player born in the Dominican Republic. And, you mentioned it to him, and he's, I never thought about that. He said, yeah, it's happened for you, Adrian. That's the kind of guy that he is. He doesn't think about individual accomplishments. He's all about the team, what the team has done and is doing.
Right. You won't catch him looking at his stats.
Nope.
I think if he's looking at any stats at all, he's looking at stats of the team and the pitcher that he's about to face.
Santiago set, 3 balls and a strike to count. Adrian able to check his swing, and he draws the 2-out walk. So first and second, and here comes the big fella, Prince Fielder. Second walk issued by Santiago tonight. Fielder at the plate now drew the first walk.
Santiago being very careful with Beltre, not really giving him anything to swing at, hoping that Beltre would help him out a little bit. But Beltre, a veteran player, understanding first base was open for him, and left-hander on deck in Prince Fielder.
And the first pitch to Fielder is in for strike 1. Fielder now second in the American League and batting with runners in scoring position. And Fielder tied with Jason Kipnis for the hits leader in the major leagues. And D. Gordon also with 122. Fielder and Kipnis have gone back and forth. D. Gordon hurt, and that kind of slowed him down a little bit.
Slowed him down a lot. He's been out maybe a month now.
Pretty close to it, yeah. 0-1 the count. Odor away from second, and the pitch to Fielder. Tried to wait on that slow breaking ball. Didn't quite wait long enough. 0-2.
Santiago, that breaking ball is not just slow, it is super slow.
And he's crafty. He'll change speeds on that breaking ball, and you say he can slow it down to where he won't even get a speeding ticket. Especially out here. Unless you're going triple digits out here, you don't get a speeding ticket. No balls, 2 strikes. In the dirt. It gets away from Iannetta far enough. He's going to throw it to second and almost threw it by Ibar. If Ibar doesn't sacrifice his stomach and block that ball, that's into center field and Odo scores. There he's going to have to take a little time to catch his breath.
Yes, he is. That didn't feel good, I'm sure. Santiago bounces this one. Iannetta jumps on it. Odor's got third base. He's trying to get Beltre going into second. And Ibar sees that it's going to bounce. He knows there's a runner on third base, so he just sacrifices his body to keep in front and save a run.
Wow. Well, same situation that the Angels had in the first inning. A wild pitch. Advances runners to second and third with 2 outs. Fielder, a count of 1 ball and 2 strikes now. An opportunity to tie this ball game with a base hit. Lays off the breaking ball. It's 2-2. Hard to get Fielder to swing at the same pitch in the same at bat that you fool him on.
It is. He's got a very good eye. He understands what a pitcher's trying to do, and he'll figure out that pattern rather quickly.
It seems like once he sees it coming out of a pitcher's hand, he recognizes it more quickly the next time.
That's really the key, recognizing the pitch as quickly as possible from the pitcher. Fielder's got, puts it in that file, and he can recall it instantaneously.
2-2 as Santiago is ready. Chopper up the middle, hits slowly. Giamatelli on the run, throws, and out at first as Pujols kept a toenail on the bag. That's as far as Albert Pujols can stretch that big frame of his. And we're going to have the Angels hang on a second as Jeff Bannister waiting for the word from Joey Probinski upstairs. And he gets it. And Joey says, nope, there's no sense challenging that. The toenail was in contact with the bag. So the Rangers gone in the third. No runs a hit, 2 men are left. After 2.5, Angels 3, Rangers 1.
Built in 1966. They renovated it here in 1998. Great theme here in center field. They knocked down the stands, gave it an open look, made this nice rock theme, kind of courtesy of Disney, a theme park, a nice stream going through. And Buzz, Mac, they say there's some fish in this. Happen to make a homemade fishing pole. I'm going to dip it in here, see what we can get here. Oh, got a little bite there. No. I'll be here next couple innings. See if we can pull out some trout or something like that in this thing. Not a bad fishing hole, though.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. He's probably going to hook trout out there in center field. Close enough to him. Noxie. He can find something no matter where he goes. There's something that he's going to get onto. It's amazing.
There's only one of them.
Yep. Well, Albert Pujols starting off in the Angel third. And Pujols, Ibar, and Crone. And Giovanni Gallardo down in the count, 3 balls, no strikes, comes back and gets a strike at the knees. Pujols had an RBI on a ground out his first time up. Albert now 62 runs driven in this year. He's in a bit of a mini slump, though, over his last 8 times to the plate. And he pops this one up to right field. He's going to be 0 for 9 if that ball comes down. Shin-Soo Choo makes the grab. That is out number 1. Next will be Eric Ibar. Well, folks, the defending World Series champion San Francisco Giants visit Globe Life Park next Friday through Sunday. Great seating inventory is still available at TexasRangers.com, so don't miss your chance to see the rare regular season appearance by the Giants. It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Globe Life Park. A lot of good seats left for that series, also for the Yankee series, which precedes the Giants. And Monday through Thursday with the Bronx Bombers in town. Eric Ibar drew a walk his first time to the plate. 1 ball, no strikes. Giovanni Gallardo has allowed 4 hits. He has walked 3 tonight. Another odd evening so far for Giovanni. Ibar, right center field, long run in. Delino to Shields with the great closing speed. And nice going into the slide to make the grab for out number 2.
Well, we've got a center fielder with that extra gear as well. Delino broke back on the ball initially, then picked it up and had to get on that horse. It's called closing speed. You see him go back, run a little circle, just to make it interesting.
Delino, well, he can cover some ground out there in center field. Rangers blessed with a couple of guys that can do that in center. He and Leonis Martin are pretty fleet-footed and excellent center fielders. Here's C.J. Cron, who's 0 for 1. Ball fouled back just to our left. Where are you going, Mac?
Out of the way. Out of the way. That's a little hot for me, babe.
Mark Gubicza next door. He's
in their pretty shirts that they've got going.
All right, there's Hawaiian, the Hawaiian motif here. No balls and 2 strikes now to Cron. There they are.
Look at that. How beautiful.
Victor Rojas and Mark Gubicza. Yeah, those look good on them. The swing and a miss by Cron. The ball gets away, and Cron is going to advance on the wild pitch. Well, Robinson Chirinos not able to get enough on that ball to stop it. It got away from him, and then he had trouble finding where it was. So Cron easily to first base. Strikeout, wild pitch.
Gallardo with a breaking ball. Again, that breaking ball kicks down and kicked up off of Gallardo's chest protector and rolled the opposite way of first base. It was going to be a tough play even if he saw it.
I'll tell you how things are going here in the first 3 innings. That's the first strikeout for Gallardo. Normally you think that's a good thing. And wild pitch, and he gets on base.
That's not.
Can't
really
win for
good.
losing.
Not really good.
So 1 on, 2 outs. Connor Gillaspie, who has singled in his first Angel at bat, takes high and outside. Gillaspie, we mentioned, just picked up by the Angels from the White Sox. White Sox had designated Gillaspie for assignment 10 days ago, and Angels jumped in with the need for a seasoned third baseman. They worked out a cash transaction with the White Sox. So Gillaspie over here now in an Angel uniform. He's 28 years of age. 2 balls, no strikes. Gillaspie from Omaha, Nebraska, lives now in the Wichita area. Had some productive years in Chicago. He had 282 last year for the White Sox. Drove in 57, had 13 home runs for the White Sox in 2013. 2-0 pitch. Same thing to left center field. That is up the alley, and nobody can cut it off. It's going to the wall. Cron being waved around third. The throw comes into Andrews, but Cron, with 2 outs, able to score from first base on a Gillaspie double. It is a 4-1 Angel lead.
Gillaspie got another pitch up and out over the zone and hit it in that vacant shortstop hole. Actually, it would have been over the shortstop's head, but into the left center field gap. That ball gets all the way to the wall.
So Gillaspie in his Angel debut is 2 for 2, and he has driven in a run. Angels now lead 4-1. And first ball swinging. Chris Iannetta pops it foul. That will be back into the seats on the first base side. So Giovanni Gallardo, a bit of bad luck in this inning. Gets the strikeout of Cron, but the ball's in the dirt, so Cron reaches first. And promptly, Connor Gillaspie goes the other way with a fastball for an opposite field double and the RBI. Now Gillaspie out at second base. 0-1 the count to Chris Iannetta, who skied to right field his first time. 1-1. Iannetta took that 0 for 4, as Mac told you last night, with 4 punch-outs. He has been pretty good in this month of July. He had 10 RBI and 4 home runs. Didn't mean to do it. Check swing on a high pitch, and it's foul tipped for strike 2. Iannetta, 10 runs driven in the last 9 games. That followed a stretch where he had 10 runs driven in the previous 29. He's picked up the production pretty well. A ball and 2 strikes. Gallardo back to the plate. We'll try it again. Giovanni forced to work overtime here in the first 3 innings. 70 pitches already for the Ranger right-hander. And that was what Giovanni was lamenting about his outing in Houston especially. He said, I just threw too many pitches. I couldn't get into the middle part of the ball game. He had to come out after 4, and pitch count really is what did him in.
Yeah, not having that command of the fastball. That's the issue.
Iannetta to left field. Rua started back. Now comes on to make the catch. That will do it. But Angels score a run on 1 hit. They strand 1. After 3, Angels score and the Rangers won. Is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer to kick off the summer right. Ford is the best in Texas. A beautiful overhead of Angel Stadium here in Southern California. Very nice night. A big crowd filing in, a late arriving crowd as always. It was a 6 o'clock start out here in Anaheim, and a lot of people in the area probably didn't remember that it was 6.
I don't think it would have mattered. If it was 7, they'll show up at 8.
They show up at 8 o'clock no matter what.
It's just how it is.
Now the Angels leading 4-1 as Elvis Andrus leads off for the Rangers against Hector Santiago. And the left-hander pours in strike 1. Elvis went down swinging his first time up. Rangers have 2 hits off of Santiago. They both come from Rougned Odor. Odor continuing his mastery of Santiago. Everybody else, though, struggling against the left-hander. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now 1-2. Seeing some reaction by Ranger hitters tonight to not picking the ball up very well.
Yeah, he's thrown 86 to 88 with the fastball, and it looks like he's, that one hit 89, but it looks as though it's 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, the way they're reacting, you're right.
Yeah, it's just, that slow breaking ball, that super slow breaking ball and changeup, that makes that fastball, it adds about 5 or 6 miles per hour to it.
What about crossfire? He throws across his body. He'll step a good 8 to 10 inches to the first base side of a direct line to home plate. Does that make for a tough time?
I honestly think that's the reason he's so difficult to hit. It is that crossfire. You see him whip around, and then all of a sudden he throws a super slow breaking ball. And then he wings that or zips that fastball around, and all of that just uncoiling. I think that crossfire is really huge on the deception part.
Another 3-2 pitch. Ibar charging on the run. Gets Elvis by a step. One gone. Well, for all you young pitchers out there, that doesn't mean you should throw a crossfire.
No, don't do it.
No, it's not really good. Your body's going to have a hard time standing up under that. But you get to the big leagues, if you do that and you're successful, nobody's going to change you.
You just got to be able to get there doing it first. That's something you can teach.
Adam Rosales takes high and away. Rosales called out on strikes as he led off the Rangers' second tonight. One 1-0 pitch. 2 balls and no strikes. Rosales now 1 out of 5 on the trip. Haven't seen a lot of action. Rangers pretty much had a set lineup going for a while. Seems like Adam, though, is one of those guys that knows how to keep himself ready. He can sit for 2 weeks and come out and have great at-bats for you.
And that's a tough job. It's a tough job for anybody, but Rosie's been around quite some time now. So he understands what he needs to do and how to keep himself ready for that.
Check swing. It's a strike to even things up at 2-2. Guys that have done that, most of the time it's a veteran player who comes off the bench as a pinch hitter that always amazed me.
Right.
Guys that come, they get one at bat maybe every other day, and they come out and look like they've been playing every single inning of every single game. Their timing is great. It's amazing. It always amazed me.
Yeah, scorch a line drive, just put a quality at bat together. It's just not something that's easy to do, but there are some guys that are very good at it.
A trio of Angels into foul territory. Giavatelli will make a nice running catch. That is out number 2. Boy, Giavatelli had a long way to go. He was shaded up the middle against Rosales. Calhoun and Pujols along with Giavatelli. And Giavatelli was the one that got there.
Nice play. See, he goes in the sun, comes back out of the sun. Foul territory, makes the grab.
2 up, 2 away. Now Shin-Soo Choo will face Hector Santiago. Choo tapped right back to the mound his first time. Santiago's first pitch. 1 ball, no strikes. Choo for the season hitting at .234. He is a little bit less than that in his career against Hector Santiago. Choo just 5 for 23 now. It's about a .220 average. And he's ahead of the count, 2-0. Santiago has walked 2 tonight. He walked Adrian Beltre and Prince Fielder. And ball 3 is low. So Choo trying to get aboard with 2 outs. He's hitting 7th in the Ranger order. He'll be followed by Ryan Rua. Hey, Chris Ionetta saying, okay, hang on now, just right here to me. And he misses low for ball 4. Third walk of the game issued by Santiago. Choo aboard, Rua coming up.
Well, you'll see a lot of that. A pitcher would get 2 quick outs and then walk the next batter. Sometimes 4 pitches, maybe 5. What do you think causes that?
Mac, I can't tell you. I think it's a little bit different for each pitcher, but it makes me think that you really don't have the edge that you're showing. You may have retired 15 guys in a row, and you still don't believe you've done it. And you want to get cute, you want to get fine, you lose the aggressiveness that it's like guys. I tell you what drives me crazy. Guys get 0-2 on a hitter. They may just blow 2 fastballs by him, and then they want to get cute with something. And all of a sudden, you get the count even. You've lost the aggressive edge you had by getting the guy 0-2 instead of just going after him and trying to get him out with 3 good pitches. But I think the same thing happens. You get 2 quick outs, and it's like, oh my goodness, I haven't gotten a base runner this inning. That's out of play to the right off the bat of Rua. The guy that throws 2 fastballs by somebody and says, okay, I can't throw him another fastball, he's probably looking for it. And the guy hasn't shown the ability to hit it yet.
Exactly. He'll foul it off the other way.
Yeah, maybe. That just, I think that's, I say that now, I don't understand it. I know there was a point in my career in high school or college when I felt the same way and had to learn the hard way that that's not how you pitch. High and tight, 1 ball, 1 strike. But to answer your question, I think it's a lack of concentration, a lack of confidence in how you're going about things that lead you to ease up or back off the gas pedal a little bit. Rua down the left field line. That is trouble. Kubica going over, dives, can't get it, and it's by him. Chu around third will score, and stopping at second is Ryan Rua with an RBI double. It's a 4-2 Angel lead. The rookie Kyle Kubica kind of got caught in between with 2 outs. He decided to gamble when a gamble really wasn't warranted. And it's cost the Angels a run here because Chu would have no doubt stopped at third on that double if Kubica just played it on a hop.
Yeah, Kubica tried to make a spectacular play where there was no spectacular play to be made. You play that ball on a hop, keep the runners at second and third, and give your pitcher an opportunity to get out of that inning without giving up a run. But that ball got by him, fortunately for the Rangers, and they score a run.
In Kyle's defense now, he'd only played left field a handful of times at AAA with the idea that he might come up and play some left field with the Angels. So it's not like he's a seasoned outfielder.
Right. And it's not the easiest thing for an infielder to go to the outfield and be able to play it and play it well. When you don't have a whole lot of experience out there, it's a different look, a totally different look. I've played all the positions, infield and outfield. It's just not an easy thing to do.
The Rangers certainly will take it. They get a run on a 2-out walk and a base hit. It's now a 2-run Angel lead. Hector Santiago, first time to allow more than 1 run in a game since June 17th. We're talking about 5 full weeks of pitching. Chirinos takes just off the outer edge. A ball and a strike. Robinson, a fly ball to center his first time up there. Rangers now 2 runs on 3 hits tonight. That was the first base hit by someone not named Odor for the Rangers. And Ryan Rua driving in a run was something other than a solo home run. First time this year. 1-1 the count. Rua getting his lead from second right there at the bottom of your screen. 2-1. Rangers last night defeated the Angels for the first time in 4 outings this year. The Angels had won 4 in a row. Rangers got back into the win column. Chirinos drives one to center. Trout retreating, still going back at the wall. It's off the wall. In to score Rua, into second with a slide. Robinson, Chirinos. And Chirinos with a booming double to center field has cut the lead to 1. It's 4-3 Angels. That was a frozen rope to center field that got over Trout's head, and that's not easy to do.
Definitely not easy to do. 396 to center field, right where that ball was hit. And Trout, we saw his speed already on a ball he came in on. But this one, Chirinos put a charge into that one. To get it over Trout's head and not go out of the ballpark, that's a ball that was crushed. Trout thought he had a beat on it. Ran out of room. Right at the base of the wall.
No, back to the top of the Ranger order now. Delino DeShields up for the third time tonight. DeShields, 2 fly balls to center field. Rangers have done some 2-out damage. Started with a 2-out walk to Chu. Threw a run-scoring double. Robinson Chirinos a run-scoring double. Now Chirinos at second, carrying the tying run. A strike to Delino evens the count at 1-1. DeShields brings in a 3-game hitting streak. We've seen him go 6 for 13 prior to tonight. Been a .333 hitter on this road trip. And a pretty good rip at that fastball from Santiago. It's 1-2. Delino hitting leadoff for the 14th consecutive game for the Rangers. He has been very much a spark plug at the top of that order. We've talked about the importance of DeShields and Odor at the top, and boy, they both just sparkled. Ground ball wide of third, but Gillespie has it, and that will do it. But the Rangers get on the board a couple of times. 2 runs on 2 hits, they lead 1. After 3.5, it's now the Angels 4, the Rangers 3. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Mazda. With every car we make, you'll see why driving matters. Well, a 4-3 ball game now. So Yamani Gallardo back, and he will try and keep it at a 1-run game. He'll face Kyle Kubica, the number 9 hitter, and then back to the top of the Angel order. Giovatello and Calhoun to follow. Angels 4 runs on 5 hits. Yamani has walked 3 to contribute to the difficulties. Kubica drew one of those walks, one of the more important walks of the ball game that was issued by Gallardo. That was with 1 out and 1 on in the second. That put a couple on, and it brought up the chance for Cole Calhoun to plug a 2-run single in that second inning. Kubica at .212. This is second tour of duty with the Angels, just called up a couple of days ago, and David Freese had to go on the disabled list. 1 ball and 1 strike. I mentioned last night Kubica from Colleyville in North Texas, in the Metroplex, went to Colleyville Heritage High School. He and his younger brother Austin a pitcher. Pitched at Rice, and Kyle played his college ball down at Texas State in San Marcos. Down to the count here, 1-2. Gallardo into the wind. And fires low and inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Kubica acquired by the Angels from the Atlanta Braves back in January of this year. Angels sending left-handed pitcher Ricardo Sanchez to Atlanta. Got him swinging. Fastball up. Kubica swinging through it. Second strikeout of the night for Giovanni Gallardo. That's 1 away. And Johnny Giovatello coming up.
Gallardo going upstairs at the top of that strike zone with that fastball. Gets the punch out of Kubica.
Now Giovatello, who has walked and flied to right field. Mentioned the Angels, since Giovatello took over in the leadoff spot, really playing well. They are 21-7 with him as their leadoff hitter. They had Cole Calhoun and Colin Cowgill and several other leadoff hitters. Eric Ibar had been up there for a while, and finally Mike Scioscia tried Giovatello, and he's not maybe the only reason that they have played well, but he certainly has been a spark plug, and he drills this one to left field for a 1-out single. Just over the leap of Elvis Andrus for the base hit.
Sometimes making a little adjustment like that in your lineup is what it takes. Doesn't have to be a guy that you would think is an impact player, but when you put him in that leadoff role, that's exactly what he becomes. Giovatello looks as though he's the answer.
Yeah, and as we talked about last night, Mac, it enabled Mike Scioscia to move Calhoun down to the second spot, Trout down to the third spot, Pujols down to the cleanup. And now all of a sudden, it was a legitimate lineup before, but now it's deeper. Now you've got more potential to score more runs, and that's what the Angels have done. First pitch to Calhoun, chops that one foul. It's 0-1. Calhoun had the big 2-run single in the second inning, driving in his 54th and 55th runs. The average at 273 for the Angels right fielder. Giovatello, the runner at first. Gallardo checks him and will drive him back with that toss. Angels not as much a running team as they have been in the past. They still will take a base if they're allowed to. Mike Trout, the team leader, with his 10th stolen base tonight. High and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Giovatello just 1 steal this year in 2 attempts. Calhoun back in, hitting out of that straightaway stance. Giovatello. Fairly good lead at first base. Calhoun taking that breaking ball that didn't quite break enough. 2-1.
It's kind of difficult to steal bases when you've got a number 2 hitter like Calhoun, and definitely 3 and 4 in Trout and Pujols. You don't want to take the bat out of their hand by running and possibly getting thrown out. You want those guys to hit with runners on base.
And for probably that same reason, you don't use a hit and run as much with a guy like Calhoun up there, do you?
No, you really don't. This guy can reach the seats and do it pretty regularly. A very good hitter. You've got that hole open over there on the right side, even though they play that shift. You've got the first baseman holding the runner on the bag, so there is a hole there.
Yep. 2 balls and a strike to Calhoun. Gallardo getting set to throw his 82nd pitch of the night. Good fastball, threw it by him. 2-2. That's one thing Giovanni's been able to do tonight again, that get that fastball up when he gets it up, and has an extra mile an hour or 2 and able to throw it by most guys.
Yeah, the higher it is, the harder it is, basically. The harder it is for a hitter to catch up to it. Gallardo's already 92, 93 with that fastball, so running it upstairs is a pretty good pitch for him.
Breaking ball, call, strike 3. He turned Calhoun into a statue, and he can't believe it. Larry Vanover, the home plate umpire, ringing him up, and that is a big strikeout.
Very big strikeout for Gallardo right there. Get Calhoun, you got Trout coming up now. Doesn't get much easier, but that breaking ball hits the outside corner, down at the bottom. Gallardo gets the call.
Yep, our Fox tracker showed you that was right at the bottom of the strike zone. So, 2 outs, 3rd strikeout for Gallardo. Here is Trout. Check swing. It is strike 1. Trout has singled twice tonight. Once to center, once to right. .310 average for the All-Star Game MVP back-to-back years. Mike Trout. A little bit outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Trout, one of only 4 guys that have won that award, or one of 5 that have won that award multiple times. And Willie Mays, Steve Garvey, Gary Carter, Cal Ripken Jr., and Mike Trout. Trout, the first one that won it back-to-back years. Slow chopper to third. Beltre, nice pickup on the short hop. Boy, Adrian, a little leather magic down there at third. That'll do it for the Angels. No runs a hit, 1 left. We have finished 4 in Anaheim. The Angels 4, the Rangers 3. Craig Biggio, the first player to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame wearing a Houston Astros cap. So congratulations to Craig and the part of the class of 2015. Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, John Schmaltz joining Craig Biggio in their induction in Cooperstown. Coors Light Cold Hard Fact brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. Well, Rougned Odor will lead off here in the Ranger 5th inning. Odor has homered and doubled. Showing bunt, he takes strike 1. Bunt bluff had Connor Gillespie charging down the line from third. But a lot of room for Rougned. He's able to drag that ball with him, which we have seen him do a couple of times now. Pitch inside and hit him. Odor didn't really jump back out of the way. Kind of turned into it.
Did not. That's a very, very good at bat. Not many guys can do this. A little turn right there.
Yep.
Nipped him on the jersey. Hey, get on base any way you can.
Leading an inning off. Club's down by 1. Yep, that's your job.
Guess who you have coming up behind you?
You got the run producers. That would be Adrian Beltre, Prince Fielder. First, it's Beltre. Adrian, a walk and a pop out tonight. Santiago, an average move for a left-hander to first. He'll vary it a little bit, and if you're not paying attention, I suppose it would be one that could pick you off, but that's not his strong suit. He will make it tough to run on him. He's quick to the plate.
Yeah, it's not very deceptive. Typically, left-handers that give base stealers problems are the ones that are quick to first and quick to home, or that left-hander that can get up there and hang a little bit and give that runner an opportunity to decide what he's going to do, and then he'll go from there.
Kind of a left-handed slide step to the home plate and gets a strike to Beltre. Adrian having a little discussion with Larry Vanover about that last call. Beltre against the Angels, 209 games. He has hit 34 home runs and driven in 125. Chops that one foul. Now finds himself down in the count. No balls, 2 strikes. '24 consecutive games for the Angels, with the starter going 5+ innings. Tied for the second longest streak in the major leagues. Longest Oakland with 25 games. And Santiago being backed up by Fernando Salas down there in the Angel bullpen. So Santiago right now has that streak in jeopardy. He has not completed 5 innings. He has to get the 3 outs here to do that. And the Rangers bound and determined not to let him get the 3 outs. Odor at first, nobody out. 0-2 the count to Beltre. Got him swinging. A backdoor breaking ball. Adrian tried to time it, but couldn't catch up with it. 1 gone. Let's check in with Jim Knox. Jim?
All right, Buzz, look who we have here. This is Pam and Sue. Now, Pam's in a Angel T-shirt, and her poster comes with a poster. We love manager Jeff Bannister. Why, Pam? Why?
We love the manager because he's our cousin's son.
All right.
We've come to see him play. We've come to support him, even though I'm in my Angels shirt. And we are bringing 35 family members in September to September 5th game when Jeff will be back. And I promised him I would have a Texas Rangers shirt.
I'm going to let you keep talking, Pam, because that was a good hit right there by Prince Fielder. One quick question. You're in the Angel shirt, and you are rooting for who?
Rooting for the Rangers, of course.
There we go. Way to go, Pam. I like that. All right, we'll sit here a little longer with Pam, Buzz.
All right, Noxie, thank you. Yeah, you're right. That was a good hit. Jeff Bannister enjoyed that. Prince Fielder hit a rope to right field for a single. His first hit of the night. So 2 on with 1 out. And Elvis Andrus, 0 for 2, steps in. Elvis, a strikeout in the first, a ground out in the 4th inning. Rangers now with 5 hits as a team. A little excuse me roller to first. Pujols will go to second. It's in the dirt, and Ibar can't handle it. Odor coming down the line, and he will score. The game is tied as Pujols threw a little lollipop down to second base and short hop Ibar, who couldn't come up with it. Odor did not stop at third, and he scores the tying run. It is 4-4.
Great read by Odor. Pujols got the ball. A little check swing, swing by Elvis. Didn't really want to swing at it. Pujols comes in, lollipops it over to short, over to Ibar, bounces it. Ibar can't hold on to it. Odor's watching the ball the entire time and read it. Tied the ball game. Great break for the Rangers.
Well, it's going to go down as a fielder's choice to allow Elvis to reach. An error charged on the throw to Albert Pujols to allow Rougned Odor to score the tying run. Fielder's choice E3, first error of the ball game for either club. And we'll see if it becomes an even more critical one as Mike Socha's team now, instead of having runners at second or at first and third with 2 outs and no runs across, Got the ball game tied at 4 and runners at first and second with just 1 out. Adam Rosales is the hitter. Well, one thing the Rangers have done very well when they've been playing well this year is take advantage of the mistakes made by the opposition. And here they have been presented a golden opportunity. In at the knees for strike 1 to Rosales. Rougned Odor causing all kinds of problems tonight for the Angels and Hector Santiago.
He is a home run, a double, hit by a pitch. Got to second, third, and then home on an error. He's doing all the damage.
The 0-1 on the way. That is lashed foul down that third base side.
Ouch.
Well, Hector Santiago, not a whole lot of support defensively in this inning for him, and he has hurt his own cause by hitting Odor to lead off the inning. Gotten ahead of Rosales, no balls, 2 strikes. Prince Fielder at second base, Elvis Andrus over at first. Breaking ball down and in, and it's 1-2. Rosales back in. He is 1 out of 6 on the road trip. Opportunity with a base hit here to give the Rangers the lead. A timing play, and the throw hit Elvis right in the middle of the back. Santiago and Pujols trying to put a timing play on it first for a pickoff, and Elvis wasn't buying it and hit him right between the N and the D.
You know, Pujols is extremely close to Elvis, and you're not going to pick anybody off being that close to him. Elvis wasn't that far off the bag anyway, and he took the angle away from Pujols by being deep, by being behind first base.
Still 1-2. Santiago threw the breaking ball. He did not swing. He appealed down to first base. Ron Culpa said nope. That evens the count now at 2-2. Santiago struggling in this frame. Rangers making him work, and they're on the verge of getting him out of the ball game here in the 5th inning. 2 on with 1 out, a 2-2 count to Adam Rosales. Call strike 3. And there's that pitch that Santiago's been very effective with tonight. The fastball to the inside corner to a right-handed hitter. He just freezes. That is out number 2.
Santiago going to that fastball. It's a 2-2 count, typically a breaking ball count, but needed to throw a strike, needed to get an out in that situation.
The 4th strikeout for Santiago. Second time he's gotten Adam Rosales on that pitch. Shin-Soo Choo at the plate now, 1 out, or 0 for 1 officially. He walked and scored in the 4th inning. Fielder and Andrus second and first. 1 ball, no strikes. Choo 8 out of 18 on this trip. Brings in a 3-game hitting streak to play tonight. 1-1. And Santiago hits the outside corner. Chris Iannetta flashing the signs out. Santiago ready. And a chopper to Pujols at first. He will take it to the bag himself, and that'll do it. But the Rangers tie it up. They get a run on 1 hit, and they strand 2. There was 1 error in the inning. We played half the ball game. The Rangers 4, the Angels 4. Delino to Shields this Wednesday at the Whataburger on Sycamore School Road in Fort Worth. Don't miss this chance to win great prizes and to meet one of your favorite Texas Rangers at Whataburger. Well, the Rangers have come back to tie the Angels 4-4 as the Angels come to bat here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Albert Pujols leading off against Giovanni Gallardo, and Gallardo drops that big hook in for strike one. Pujols 0 for 2. He has grounded out, which drove in a run. That was in the first, and fly to right in the third. No balls, 2 strikes. Giovanni Gallardo trying to regroup, and he has, according to our Fox tracker, regrouped very effectively right at the bottom of that strike zone.
Very nicely.
That just missed the outside corner. 1-2 to Pujols.
Looks like he's got his brush out now. Finally found it.
Just taking four innings to get loose. Oh, he had Pujols way out in front of that good curveball, and Pujols just able to get a piece of it to stay alive. Albert now 0 for his last 9 trips to the plate. Taking a page out of Kobe Lewis' playbook from last night.
That's not a bad page.
Nope.
A very effective page last night.
Another 1-2. Left center field. That is down in the alley. It's going to the wall. Pujols will cruise into second base with a leadoff double. Albert Pujols showing you why he has been such a great hitter for the last 15 years.
Gallardo comes with a fastball, tries to sneak it by Pujols. That's pretty hard to do. Had him, I thought, set up perfectly. Had him off balance entire at bat with breaking balls.
Yep.
Tried to sneak a fastball by him inside.
Now here's Ibar now. Pujols at second, dancing around, and Ibar shoots one up the middle. That's a base hit. Pujols being waved around third. The throw comes into second. Ibar with the RBI single. The Angels back out in front of the Rangers, 5-4. Ibar drives in his 32nd run of the year. And that is going to be it for Giovanni Gallardo.
Gallardo going back with the fastball up in the zone, out over the middle of the plate, and Ibar drills it right back up the middle. The Angels back up on top. First ball swinging.
So for the second straight time, Giovanni Gallardo able to only work 4 complete innings. He leaves after facing 2 hitters in the 5th, and he trails 5-4 in this ball game. Anthony Bass being summoned from that Ranger bullpen. We'll take a timeout here in Anaheim. Angels on top 5-4. We're back right after this. Angels have knocked Giovanni Gallardo out of the ball game. Anthony Bass, the 27-year-old right-hander from Detroit, has come on to take over. He inherits Eric Ibar at first base. He's facing C.J. Cron. Bass appearing for the 25th time this year. ERA just below 4. He has been the long man, and a little bit later in the ball game, we're used to seeing Anthony Bass maybe an inning or two. Normally he's the extreme long man. But he's been throwing the ball so well that Jeff Bannister felt he needed somebody here to put this fire out in the 5th inning and go from there.
Yeah, he's going to the guy with the hot hand right now, and that's Anthony Bass.
Bass last worked the first game in Colorado. It was on Monday night, worked an inning and gave up exactly nothing. C.J. Cron 0 for 2, but he has scored a run. He struck out and reached on a wild pitch in the 3rd inning. Came around a scorer and Connor Gillespie's double. Angels 5 runs on 8 hits. The Rangers 4 runs on 5 hits. The 1-0. On the move, Ibar. The throw to second. Ibar is out from here to Fullerton. He's staying out there at second, I guess, in an effort to get Mike Scioscia to challenge the call. There was no doubt, though, from second base umpire Vic Carapazza that he was out, and finally it sunk in, so Ibar's leaving the field.
Yeah, I think what Scioscia was waiting on, you see, Odor kind of swipes the tag. He does lay it down on him, then throws his hand up. But he was definitely out.
No, base is empty now. That is the first out here in the 5th inning. And the count is 2-1 to Cron. Cron a .262 average. Bass to the wind. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Anthony Bass signed with the Rangers as a free agent back in December, this past offseason. Last 3 years, he's been with 3 different clubs on opening day. He spent 2013 with the Padres, 2014 with the Astros. He was with the Rangers on opening day as he gets a strikeout of Cron here for out number 2.
Nice job by Bass. Sharp breaking ball, late break on it. Cron thought he had a chance, but not close on that one.
But you've kind of got 3 guys now that we've seen last night and tonight with Lewis, Gallardo, and Bass. Basically the same kind of stuff. Right. A mile an hour different maybe on the fastball, but good sharp breaking balls. One of the 3 didn't have very good command of the fastball, and that was Giovanni Gallardo, and he got hit pretty hard. The other 2, and we'll see how long Bass takes it, but the other 2 have made some right-handed hitters look pretty silly.
Yeah, they have. And, again, it's that command, being able to throw strikes and then throw that breaking ball off that fastball.
Right. Connor Gillespie, 2 out of 2. He has singled and doubled, driven in a run, scored a run. Well, the Angels going out, obtaining his services from the White Sox, and he has answered the bell very effectively here in Anaheim. Gillespie came in hitting at .237 for the year. That average now up to .246. Chopped foul at the plate. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Gillespie is a member of the White Sox. Had 3 home runs, drove in 15. Rangers now have adjusted the defensive alignment against Gillespie. No longer is an extreme overshift. And it's not going to make any difference because Anthony Bass just pounded him down and in with that good sharp slider. And Bass strikes out a couple and working the inning. We have finished 5 here in Anaheim. The Angels have retaken the lead. It's 5-4 Los Angeles. Gem inning brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $300 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. If a Ranger hits a home run during this inning, Nora Porter from Mesquite is going to win $300. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Nora is going to take home $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic or restaurant. Now with Fernando Salas, the right-hander, taking over on the mound, and Ryan Rua due up. Jeff Bannister going to the bench, and Josh Hamilton, as you can tell, being welcomed by the fans here in Anaheim again.
A little louder than last night. Since he did a little bit of damage.
Yep. So Hamilton pinch hitting to start off the Rangers' sixth. Rua retires for the night, having gone 1 for 2 with a very big RBI double and a run scored. Josh hitting at .250 and a 2-hit game last night, takes outside for ball 1. And Fernando Salas, the 30-year-old right-hander, appearing in his 42nd game. 4.14 ERA. This the time of the game that he's been used the most. Opponents hitting .237. Hamilton, a high fly ball to right center, is playable for Calhoun. That is out number 1. So 1 up, 1 away. Now Robinson Chirinos. Fernando Salas came over from St. Louis before the 2014 season. He and David Freese came from the Cardinals in exchange for Peter Borges and Randall Grichuk. Last year, Salas in an Angel uniform, 57 ball games. He was 5-0 with a 3.38 ERA. High and tight to Chirinos, who was showing bunt. 1 ball, no strikes. Chirinos, an RBI double his last time up. Batting average now at .226 for Robinson. Makes a breaking ball that nibbles on the inside corner for a strike. Chirinos, that .226 mark, the best he has had his average this year. He has really been doing some work. He now has a 4-game hitting streak that has seen him go 5 for 12. Salas with that good high fastball ahead of the count now, 1-2.
Yeah, Robbie's average hasn't been up there, but he's still had some pretty good production. 9 home runs and 31 RBIs. But his number one deal is to be able to handle this pitching staff, and he does a great job at that.
Yep, that he does. Got him swinging. Salas, a fly ball, now a strikeout. 2 up, 2 away, back to the top of the order for Delino to Shields. Well, folks, it's Safety Saturday. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation. The Shields tonight 0 for 3. A couple of fly balls and a ground ball. Salas missing with the fastball up and away. Salas basically a fastball changeup specialist. He'll throw an occasional curveball. That fastball, as you're seeing, got a lot of life to it. Right-hander peering in for the sign from Chris Iannetta. The liner to Shields waiting. That is the changeup from Fernando Salas. 1 ball, 1 strike. Delino's average .273. Time called momentarily. Delino having a very good road trip. He's now 10 for 33 on this trip. And again, once he stepped into the leadoff spot, Rangers have been playing very solid baseball offensively. 2-1.
You know, he's provided that spark that the Rangers needed at the top of the order, the consistent spark. Getting on base any way that he can. Bunt base hit, leads the league in bunt base hits. Walks, getting on base, stealing bases, driving in runs, starting off innings any way that he can. He's on first base.
He lines that one to right center, but Trout, a good jump on the ball, and he's able to corral it in the alley. 3 up, 3 down for Salas. Rangers gone in order after 5.5. The Angels 5, the Rangers 4 on Fox Sports Southwest. Fans will be treated to a Medical Center Arlington Adrian Beltre bobblehead. Join us to see the Rangers take on the Rays. You can get your collectible bobblehead that day, and visit TexasRangers.com or call 972-RANGERS for tickets. Anthony Bass going to work against Chris Iannetta here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Angels leading 5-4. Iannetta 0 for 2 tonight. A couple of fly balls against Giovanni Gallardo. He's that good sharp breaking ball from Bass. He did not get the appeal on the check swing. 1 ball and 1 strike. Anthony Bass came on to work an inning taking over for Gallardo in the bottom of the 5th. He inherited Ibar at first. He was shot down trying to steal, and then Bass struck out Crone and Gillespie. Very handy work.
Came in and put out a little fire.
2-1 pitch. And 2-2. Angels 5 runs on 8 hits. They have committed 1 error. The Rangers 4 runs on 5 hits. They have played error-free baseball. Anthony Bass to the wind. And chopper by him out to Rougned Odor. 1 gone. Now before Kyle Kibitsa steps in, let's check in with Jim Knox. Jim?
All right, Buzz, check this out. I think I'm in the best seat in the house. This is the dugout suites right behind home plate, about 50 feet behind home plate. This is really nice, guys. And Angel fans, nice enough to let me come here just for a little half inning. But
Buzz and Mac, guess how much this thing rents for like 1 game? You'll never guess. Guess how much? Huh? Name a price. Huh? What do you think?
$1,000.
No.
Oh.
$4,300. Can you believe it?
$4,300, and you get free food, 12 seats. And here's Mr. Big Shot over here, Michael Johnson. How you doing, Michael? You're Mr. Big Shot tonight, entertaining everybody?
I wish I was a big shot, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm with the big shot right now.
Oh, there we go. All right, Michael. Oh, there we go. Good to have you on, Michael. Appreciate it. I'll sit here and enjoy the game with these guys. Buzz?
Don't get used to it, Doxy. You might start charging you down there. 1-1 the count to Kyle Kubica. Now 1-2. Kubica walked and scored in the second inning. Last time up, Kubica went down swinging against Gallardo. Giovanni Gallardo, 4 innings plus 2 hitters in the fifth. 8 hits, 5 runs. They were all earned, 3 walks and 3 strikeouts. Anthony Bass buries that slider in the dirt. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, he got kicked up some dirt and got Larry Vanover's eyes.
We don't need that.
No.
Get all the dirt out, Larry.
Somebody on one of the benches just had to say it. That'll improve your vision.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Or something along those lines. Foul back.
Well, did you think about it, though?
I think I heard him say it.
Well, I thought about it. So I think it's just a player thing. That's a natural thing. I wouldn't say it, but I did think it.
Yeah. You can't get thrown out for thinking something like that. The old story. Been applied to a lot of managers. Into the shift, and Odor throws out Kubica, 2 gone. Manager walks out. It's been said about DeRocher and about Earl Weaver, whomever. Out to talk to the umpire, yelling, "Can I get thrown out for thinking something about you?" The umpire said, "No, I think you stink." He said, "You're gone."
Yeah, you drop the magic U, and you are gone.
You is not permissible.
I thought it would, really, I thought it would take some other words, but that's just not a hard, that's not a harsh word.
No. Whatever the modifier is he used for you, I think is important also.
You think?
Yeah. That and the active verb. 0-1 the count to Johnny Giovatello, who is 1 for 2 tonight. He's walked and singled, also fly to right. Bases empty, 2 away here in the bottom of the 6th. Good breaking ball from Bass. Boy, Anthony, that might have been a cutter. Anthony's got that working.
Whatever it is, it's got some late break to it.
Yep. Giovatello, in his career, has had pretty good luck against Anthony Bass. 3 out of 5. I don't think Anthony Bass was throwing like this for Giovatello to have 3 for 5. One ball and 2 strikes to count. Anthony not messing around. He's staying right on top of the mound. Ready to go to work. Two and 2. Now, it could be, too, Mac, without Anthony Bass bringing him in where he doesn't have to worry about going a lot of innings necessarily. Could be airing it out a little bit more.
Yeah, it could be. I like the fact you said he's working fast, getting the ball, getting right back up there on that mound. Love to see that.
Giovatello shooting one the other way. That's down into the corner for extra bases. Chu playing it around the outside, and Giovatello is going for 3. The throw not in time. Beltray has to block the ball from keeping it to getting by him. And Giovatello with a triple down the right field corner. He is at third with 2 outs.
Whatever it is, he likes Anthony Bass. Anthony fooled him with a nice breaking ball, then went up in the zone with a fastball. Giovatello all over it. Drives it down that right field line, and it kicks around down there in the corner. And this is a tough wall out there in right field. Chu does the right thing. You've got to wait for that ball to come out. You can't go into that wall and get it because it can roll around. It could be a lot longer getting to that ball. So Giovatello with a triple.
Now Mike Maddox out there. Yeah, there's that little drainage channel, I think, that is right at the base of the wall, isn't there?
Yes, there is. I've seen many outfielders go into that corner thinking, hey, it's going to come out, I can cut it off. And that padding, there's a little overhang, and that ball will roll all the way around. And you'll see guys continue to run around the bases.
Right there at the bottom of that wall. There's just enough room between the padding and the ground for the ball to fit in there.
There it is.
And run right around that wall. So 2 outs. Giovatello at third. Cole Calhoun at the plate. Mike Maddox taking the instructions out there for Anthony Bass and Robinson Chirinos. Calhoun 1 for 3, an RB, a 2-run single back in the second inning. First pitch from Bass. Lined into center field, a base hit. In to score, Giovatello. Cole Calhoun with the RBI single. It is a 6-4 Angel lead. It didn't take long for Calhoun to find one that he could pick on. He gets his 3rd RBI of the night. Mike Scioscia, you saw Elvis toss that ball up in the air, and it was kind of a funny gesture, but Mike Scioscia didn't take it funny.
Right.
There is a penalty for that, and it's 3 bases if you hit the ball with your glove, isn't it?
It is a three-base error if that ball hit the glove. If you throw any object at the baseball, a live baseball, it's a three-base error. Elvis flips his glove up here. Doesn't really come close. Well, I guess he does come close.
Might have come a little closer than he intended to.
I think he did.
You see Adrian do that all the time at third in not letting go of the glove.
Right.
Pretends like he's going to throw it and then never lets go of it. Well, the Angels, though, with 2 outs, have put a triple and a single together to get a 2-run advantage. And Mike Trout, who is 2 for 3, steps in. Trout 5 for 10 with 2 home runs against Anthony Bass in his career. Angels now with 10 hits tonight. That's out of play down the first base side. And the count moves to 0-2.
Bass was going along nicely. Got the first 2 outs pretty quickly. Ran into Giovatello, who hits him very well. Was ahead in the count. Giovatello made him pay for a fastball up in the zone.
0-2 pitch coming to Trout. Couldn't get Mike to offer it that breaking ball down the way. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Trout, again, having just a fantastic year. Prior to the All-Star break, he and Albert Pujols tied the Angel record for most home runs before the All-Star break. Garrett Anderson also had 26. That was back in the year 2000. But both Pujols and Trout equaled that this year. And they are both still tied with 29 home runs at the top of Major League Baseball.
That's a pretty good pair right there.
Wow. 2-2 now. And that was the idea that the Angels had when they brought Pujols over, to get he and Trout, maybe not back-to-back initially. Trout was more thought of as the leadoff guy and maybe work into something different. But once Trout developed and got to be the hitting stud that he is, they put them back-to-back, and that's a great duo. 2-2 coming from Bass. Got him swinging. Good pitch down and away. Sharp slider. Trout gone. Angels, though, get a run on 2 hits, and they lead 1. After 6, the Angels 6 and the Rangers 4. Summary tonight. Rougned Odor got it started in the first, his 7th home run of the year off of Hector Santiago. Rangers early lead. Robinson Chirinos tied the ball game. An RBI double in the 4th made it a 4-4 game. But the Angels came back. Eric Ibar untied the game in the 5th inning, scoring Albert Pujols with a base hit, and the Angels add on one in the 6th. It is now a 6-4 Angels lead. Rougned Odor will lead off the 7th. It'll be against the left-hander, Cesar Ramos. Ramos, we saw in last night's ball game, worked a 1/3 of an inning in that contest. Came on to face Shin-Soo Choo in the 7th last night. Daniel Robertson now to take over in left field for the Angels. Former Ranger out there patrolling left field now in place of Kyle Kubica. Ramos' first pitch to Odor. That takes strike 1. These are Ramos, we remember from last night, basically a fastball slider pitcher. Sinker, slider, four-seam slider. A lot of breaking balls, particularly the left-handers. Odor 2 for 2 tonight. He's been aboard all 3 times he's come to the plate. Saw that homer in our forward game summary. Also doubled the next time up, last time up, leading off the 5th inning, was hit by a pitch and scored what at that time was the tying run of the ball game. Chops that pitch foul toward the Ranger dugout. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Rougned taking that deep breath and back in the batter's box and slow things down, the mental process. 1-2 pitch. Just missed the outside corner. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ramos, the 31-year-old left-hander. Born right up the 405 freeway in Los Angeles. Still 2-2. Ramos, as we mentioned last night, went to college at Long Beach State University, and that has been a birthing ground for major league players. While he was there, Jared Weaver and Jason Vargas were a couple of pitching teammates for Ramos. Troy Tulowitzki and Evan Longoria, also teammates. I don't know how the Rams down there ever lost. The Long Beach State Rams ever lost a game.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And their teammates. I mean, I understand it a little bit longer if it's a longer period of time, but all those guys are teammates. That's
it was within a 6-year period. Right. You know,
that's still a lot.
Yeah, that's tremendous production from one program.
Pretty good players.
Another 2-2 pitch from Ramos. And Ramos doing most of his work at the major league level lately at Tampa Bay. Appeared in better than 45 games each of the last 2 years with the Rays. Came over to the Angels from Tampa Bay in a trade last November. Another 2-2 pitch. Big breaking ball. See you later. Rougned do it. Had not seen that pitch from Ramos before, and he has now. 1 out, and that's going to be a one-hitter appearance for Cesar Ramos. Mike Socia out of the Angels dugout, and saw that big, slow breaking ball that just bit the outside corner off. So Ramos gets the man he's asked to face. Rougned Odor caught looking. Trevor Gott, the right-hander, coming in out of the bullpen as Mike Socia signals. That's who he wants. So a pitching change underway at Angel Stadium. Angels leading the Rangers 6-4. We're back right after this timeout. 4-game series with the New York Yankees, and fans can pay the day and get 2 upper reserve tickets for just $30. Log on to TexasRangers.com, use the coupon code PAYTHEDAY to take advantage of the special offer. That's 2 upper reserve tickets for just $30 for that Yankee series. And folks, there's still good seats left for the entire Yankee series, as well as the Giants series following the Yankees. It'll be a great 7 days. And then right after the Giants, it'll be the Houston Astros, whom the Rangers are chasing in the American League West. Well, Trevor Gott, hard-throwing right-hander, on now. He's a 22-year-old out of Lexington, Kentucky. Came over to the Angels as part of the deal with San Diego that brought Houston Street over at trading deadline last year. Gott making his appearance this year, and he has had some pretty good success with the Angels, working late in ball games for Mike Scioscia. Facing Adrian Beltre. Beltre 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. In the air to right field. It is playable. Cole Calhoun settling underneath it. 2 gone. Now Gott will face Prince Fielder. Gott with a fastball, a curveball, and an occasional changeup. Young man worked his way through the minor league system for the Padres very quickly. Here's Prince, who is 1 for 2, a walk and a single. And there's that curveball for strike 1. Fielder, .339 average. And there's that good fastball from Gott at 97 that tailed outside. Gott, one of those guys that until you see him a few times, pretty tough to zero in one at bat. He got great movement, good velocity, and that big slow curveball that he throws for strikes.
Yeah, I don't think he throws anything straight. Everything's shooting to the left or shooting to the right or on a different plane. So that makes it very difficult for a hitter, especially right-handers. He's kind of herky-jerky, and that makes it real difficult for a hitter to pick him up.
I think actually he's probably a left-hander trapped in a right-hander's body. The ball not straight. Can't throw the ball straight to save his life.
I don't think he can. It's great for a pitcher.
It is. Yeah.
But not for a hitter, that's for sure.
Now the young right-hander into the wide, the 2-2 pitch. Chopper to third. Fair ball. Gillespie on the run. Throws out Fielder. And Gott comes on to get the final 2 outs. Rangers out in order in the 7th inning. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th after the stretch. 6-4 Angels. True HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and a whole lot more every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Spencer Patton now has come out of the Ranger bullpen to take over. Patton, another one of those guys that's working into a more well-defined role late in ball games. He has really thrown the ball well, especially lately. He has not been scored upon since the early part of July, back on the 7th against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And since then, Patton in 7 outings, only given up 2 hits. Dealing here to Albert Pujols to start things off. 1-1. Pujols 1 for 3 tonight. He snapped an 0 for 9 with a double in the 5th inning. Came in to score on Eric Ibar's base hit. Pitch just outside. 3 balls, no strikes. So Patton, the third pitcher used tonight by Jeff Bannister. Anthony Bass worked a couple of innings, gave up a run on 2 hits with 3 strikeouts. Pujols, a towering fly ball that's going to stay in the ballpark. Delino to Shields puts it away, and Albert Pujols got most of that. It was fortunately way up in the air. And 1 out, Eric Ibar coming up. We're going to send it back to Dana Larson. She has a Mazda game break for you. All right, Dana, thank you. And we will see those Yankees on Monday night at Globe Life Park. 1st of 4, Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, and company. Again, folks, if you want to make plans to come out, plenty of good seats left for all 4 Yankee games, and also for the Giants series right after that. 3 home runs tonight against the Twins for Alex Rodriguez at 39 years. Almost 40 years of age, 5th oldest player in Major League history with a 3 home run game. Two and 1, the count to Eric Ibar. Ibar 1 out of 2, an RBI single, and also a walk tonight. Angels 6 runs on 10 hits this evening. That right down at the shoe tops, and apparently it hit Ibar. Robinson Chirinos is asking Larry Vanover, the home plate umpire, and it is a swing on Ibar. There was no check swing involved. Third base umpire Brian Knight saying, yeah, he swung, so it doesn't matter whether the ball hits you or not if you swing at it.
And I think Ibar knew that. Got to test him a little bit. Maybe they didn't see it.
See if you can get away with something. That's right. Ball definitely hit him on the shin. And he definitely swung. Yep, that's a swing.
I think so.
Yep. Brian Knight said, yep, I know that's a swing. So the count moves to 2-2. Ibar, sore leg and all, back in there. And laid off that breaking ball. The count is full. Ibar with 1 out, trying to get aboard. C.J. Cron, the DH, is next. Patton back to the plate and misses low, ball 4. A 1 out walk puts Ibar aboard. Now Cron will come up. Spencer Patton out of Urbana, Illinois, a 27-year-old. Played his college ball at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. He originally was in the Kansas City Royals organization. He's their 24th round draft pick back in 2011. Spencer, of course, as we've mentioned, really racked up a lot of great saves at AAA last year with both the Omaha team of the Royals, and then once he was traded for Jason Frazier with the Rangers, racked up some pretty good save numbers down at AAA Round Rock.
He's got a good fastball. He can pinpoint it. Sharp breaking ball. Fools a lot of right-hand hitters and left-hand hitters.
I think you would probably find that generally if you can rack up numbers like that, save numbers at AAA, you could probably do it at the big leagues if you have the stuff to do it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, there's quality pitches. If you're going to rack up big save numbers, that means you're throwing quality strikes. You're not just, getting by luck. You're throwing quality pitches, and from what we've seen from him up here, he's got quality pitches. He just hasn't had that opportunity.
0-2 the count to C.J. Cron. Back to Patton, to Elvis, back to first, and the double play. 1-6-3. Elvis talking to his counterpart, Eric Ibar. Thanks for not flipping me over. So the side retired on the double play. We'll move on to the 8th inning out here in Anaheim. Angels leading the Rangers 6-4. To you from Andrew. That looks a little dangerous. Please don't try this at home, folks. Andrew, appreciate it. Thanks for sending that in. And if you folks would like to tweet your strongest fan photo, maybe have a chance to get it on the air, use hashtag Southwest Data Strong Fan. Your photo might be selected to be aired during an upcoming broadcast like Andrew's. Brought to you by the good folks at T-Mobile. Well, you go to the 8th inning, and now you get into the part of the bullpen that has been very good for the Angels. Joe Smith leading the American League in holds this year. Or leading the major leagues, actually, in holds with 23 of them. Smith doing a very good job, appearing in his 42nd ball game. That ERA at 2.5, and pretty good strikeout to walk ratio, 35-10, and opponent's batting average just 218. Smith, the former Cleveland Indian reliever, has come out here now in the last 2 years, been very effective for the Angels setting up Houston Street.
Yeah, they've had a very effective bullpen. That's one reason they're where they are right now, being able to get a lead and hold the lead and then shut the door.
Yeah, Elvis Andrus talking to Larry Vanover momentarily, exchanging pleasantries. Elvis steps in, 0 for 3 tonight. He's grounded out a couple of times and struck out, and Smith with that semi-submarine delivery. This is out inside for ball 1. Joe Smith, one of those guys that throws from an odd angle. Guys have a tough time only seeing him in a game once, trying to pick up that and do much with him. Ball, as you can see, throws a very heavy sinking fastball. Also will mix in a slider. occasionally. It probably looks like it goes up. And that pitch is low. 3 balls and no strikes to Elvis.
Yeah, a pitcher like Joe Smith that comes from down there for right-handers, it's very difficult for right-handers to pick him up. And just like you said, Buzz, he's only going to face him one time. So it's very tough to get a read, make your adjustments, and then try and do some damage in one at bat when you very rarely see this guy.
What do you do after you've seen him 3 or 4 times? You know what he looks like. What do you try to make him do to make him hittable?
For a right-hander, I think you've got to try to make him get the ball up in the zone. For left-handers, a guy like this, for me, was easy because the ball's coming into that left-hander. They didn't bother me at all. I think there might have been one guy, Jeff Nelson, because he threw so hard, that gave left-handers trouble. But guys like this, they give right-handers fits.
Ibar has no play. Elvis able to leg it out. Joe Smith kind of got in the way, and Ibar had to alter his approach to the ball. But even had he come straight at it and picked it up cleanly, it would have been a base hit for Elvis. And Elvis firing it down that line. Well, Andrus aboard to the infield single.
Great job by Elvis. Got a pitch outside, a little up in the zone. Got on top of it, chopped it. And that's going to be a base hit all the way.
Well, for the Rangers, their 6th base hit of the night. Elvis with his first. And we're going to have a pinch hitter now for Adam Rosales. Jeff Bannister able to go to the bench, the left-handed heavy-hitting bench. And Mitch Moreland will come off as a pinch hitter for Adam Rosales. Moreland, a .281 average, 16 home runs, 49 RBI. And Smith able to pop in that first pitch for strike 1.
It's a nice bat to be able to bring off the bench, especially in this situation late in the ball game.
Mitch has not had an extremely good road trip by his standards. Just 4 for 18, but he's driven in 3 runs in 7 games. Just 1 hit in his last 14 times to the plate. But he has established himself as a quality middle-of-the-order hitter. He grounds one into center field, a base hit. Elvis not stopping at second. He will motor into third. And with nobody out now, the Rangers have the tying runs aboard. Shin-Soo Choo is coming up.
Like you said, Buzz, it's been a tough road trip for Mitch. It's the 5th left-handed starter they've seen, so he really didn't get a whole lot of playing time in Colorado, with seeing 2 there. Then today's left-hander, but he comes in to pinch hit. Gets a big single back up the middle. Now we got first and third.
Well, the Rangers down by a couple, but they have the tying runs on. Moreland with the single following Elvis's infield hit. Shin-Soo Choo is 0 for 2 tonight with a walk and a run scored. Choo facing his former teammate, Joe Smith. Teammates in Cleveland. And the first pitch is outside for ball 1. Shin-Soo Choo, 1 for 5 in his career against Smith. 2 balls, no strikes. And the Rangers, you've taken a page out of the explanation you gave, Mac, of trying to make him get the ball up, not offering it the pitch down. Smith to the plate. That's out of play.
When you've got a right-hander or a left-hander that's coming from that angle, they're going to have some natural sink to that ball. So if it starts down, it's going to stay down. So you've got to let it come up in the zone, and then it's going to come. It will more than likely come back down in the zone. But either way, you've got to have it up in the zone to be able to stand a chance to do something with it.
The double play, and now the throw back to the plate, and safe at home plate. Iannetta dropped the ball. Pujols stepped on first. That removed the force play at second. The throw to second, not in time to get Moreland, so Ibar came home with it. And Iannetta could not hang on to the ball and apply the tag. It's now a 1-run game, a 6-5 Angel lead.
Great read by Elvis. Chu hits a one-hopper to Pujols. Pujols steps on first. Ibar thinks it's a force, but it's not. So Moreland's safe at second. Elvis waited for that ball to be thrown to second base before he broke home. And just not enough time to get Elvis. He gets that hand underneath the tag of Iannetta, and Iannetta couldn't hang on to the ball.
So the tying run now out at second base. 1 out. Here's Josh Hamilton for his second at bat. Takes low and inside, ball 1. Hamilton came off the bench to pinch hit for Ryan Rua, leading off the 6th inning and flied out. Hamilton 3 for 7 in his career against Smith. Chance here to tie this ball game with a base hit. 2 balls, no strikes. Josh hitting at .247. 3 home runs, 8 RBI. Mitch Moreland, the runner at second, establishing his lead right there at the bottom of your screen. Outside, 3 balls, no strikes. Hamilton hitting in the 8th spot of the order, to be followed by the Ranger catcher, Robinson Chirinos. 3-0 pitch. Lost him. A semi-intentional, unintentional walk, if you will. I don't think Joe Smith had cared very much whether he walked him or not.
No, I don't think he really wanted to pitch to Josh, especially with a right-hander coming up on deck.
So 2 on with 1 out. A little conference of the mound, Iannetta and Smith, and also Eric Ibar. Chirinos 1 for 3 tonight. Had an RBI double in the 4th inning. That was off the starter, Hector Santiago. See, Robinson has had no luck against Smith so far in his career, 0 for 5. Rangers have put together a couple of hits and a walk in this inning for the 1 run that got them within 1 run. Robinson trying to get him over the hump. And he takes a knee-high strike. Take you back to the 4th inning. Robinson Chirinos blasting one to center over the head of Mike Trout, which is no mean feat. That scored Ryan Rua. And Robinson Chirinos with his 32nd RBI of the year. 0-1 pitch. 1-1. Runners in scoring position. Average for the Rangers, .233 tonight. 1 for 7. And they've got Mitch Moreland out there carrying the tying run in this ball game. 1 ball, 2 strikes. A .233 average overall, a little bit misleading because the Rangers lately, I'm talking about the last 4 ball games, have been much better, hitting over .300. And it's been that kind of a year. Mostly down, but when they've gone through spurts, they played good baseball. That average very representative of a producing team.
Yeah, they've come up with some clutch hits.
Over the glove of Gillespie into left field. Moreland being waved around. Here comes the throw. It is not in time. Moreland slides in. Hamilton on to third, and the Rangers have tied the ball game as Chirinos drives in his 2nd run of the night. It is a 6-6 ball game.
Great base running. Tony Beasley being very aggressive. Knowing who the left fielder is. Daniel Robertson doesn't have a very strong arm. Beasley's waving Moreland around. Once that ball gets over the third baseman's head, Tony Beasley just keeps waving. And more importantly, the better read was Josh Hamilton going from first to third on the play. Now we've got runners on the corners with still 1 out.
So good aggressive base running, good aggressive hitting by Robinson Chirinos. Rangers have the go-ahead run at third base with just 1 out. And the top of the order, Delino to Shields due up. The conference on the mound, Mike Butcher, the pitching coach out there to go over some information for the guys, the whole infield together, along with the battery. Well, the Rangers have put together 3 hits and a walk in this inning to tie the ball game. A couple of runs across. A chance now for Delino DeShields to untie this ball game. The Angels will play the infield in. Well, Ibar now backing up a little behind the in position. He's going to be just behind the baseline, as is Gio Batella. So maybe a hard hit ground ball. They would try to get a double play, but it's going to have to be very hard hit because we all know Delino DeShields can scoot down the line.
Yeah, hard hit and right at somebody. And, you know, this alignment for me is I've never really understood this. If you're going to have your infield in, either have a man or have him back at double play depth, because even though the third baseman's holding Josh on, Josh is a very fast runner. Right now it's 1 out. He's probably going on contact. You got to give one way or the other, because if Delino hits the ball on the ground, they're probably not going to turn 2. If Ibar has to go to his left to field it, then possibly, because that gets him closer to the bag. But this has always been a very strange alignment for me.
Well, let's see if the Rangers can exploit it. First pitch to Delino DeShields is at the knees for strike 1. Delino has flied out to center field 3 times tonight and also grounded to third. 0 for 4 tonight. 47% of the time, Delino has been able to get that runner home from third with less than 2 out. Just below the major league average. The bunt is on, it's fouled off. That was going to be a safety squeeze. Hamilton coming down the line tentatively. He was not moving on the pitch. He was at a point where he was going to be able to back up. He's kind of coming down the same distance the third baseman was coming down.
Yeah, that would have been a tremendous play, because there would have been no one covering first base. Josh would have been able to get back at least at the same rate that the third baseman would have been able to get back.
Now the 0-2 pitch. Chopper off the plate. That's going to get the job done. Gillespie sticks it in his pocket. And Delino DeShields with a chopper infield single. The Rangers take a 7-6 lead. How about that?
Nice. You can't ask for a better play than that. He's not going to get anyone with Delino DeShields chopping that ball off the plate like he did there. That ball goes up 40 feet in the air. Delino's going to be on first base before third baseman Gillespie can even catch the ball.
And Delino making sure there's no play. He was getting down that line in a hurry. And that's going to do it for Joe Smith. So Mike Scioscia out to take the ball from Smith, who only gets 1 out. He leaves having given up the go-ahead runs. 7-6 Rangers. Jose Alvarez, the left-hander, coming on, and we'll be back right after this timeout on Fox Sports Southwest.
The game, you know, Buzz and Mac hanging out with some Ranger fans all game long. Nice to see the Furtick family from Mansfield. You guys drove here?
We did drive
How
here.
long did it take?
24 hours, but we made it.
You made it. You came here last night. You're going to go to tomorrow's game?
Tonight, and tomorrow.
There we go. You came here, drove all the way, and congratulations, Rangers fans, the game. We even have Cat here looking good on the beard, Cat. There you go, Cat. Hopefully rooting the Rangers on for another win tonight. All right, guys, appreciate it. There you go, Buzz.
All right, Noxie. Well, Rangers have scored 3 here in the top of the 8th inning to take a 7-6 lead. They've got runners at first and second. Jose Alvarez, the new pitcher. Alvarez, 26-year-old. We saw last night work the last 2 innings very effectively against the Rangers. They'll face Rougned Odor. He goes after that first pitch, fouling it off for strike 1. Alvarez last night faced Odor as the first hitter when he came into the ballgame. It popped out in foul territory. Only base hit against Alvarez last night. A 2-out single by Adrian Beltre. The Rangers 4 hits in the inning, a walk. They have scored 3 times. Runners at first and second, still just 1 out. Odor tonight is 2 for 3. He had a good cut at that breaking ball from Alvarez. It is no balls and 2 strikes.
Yeah, he wants that one back for sure. He knew he had a pitch that he could drive somewhere. And fouled it straight back. He's right on it. Going to take that ball to left field, not trying to do too much with it. That's one of the adjustments that he's made since coming back to the big leagues.
Pulls that one to right field. It's hooking. Calhoun dives and comes up with it. What a catch by Cole Calhoun. And that was a do-or-die play.
Absolutely. If he doesn't make that play, a couple of runs are going to score because Delino DeShields is on first base and he was halfway to second. He definitely would have made it all the way around. Great play by Cole Calhoun.
Well, what a play by Calhoun.
Calhoun stretches out. That's about as stretched out as you can get to make a play. Wow.
Well, with Calhoun, kind of a redhead, kind of reminds you, have a flashback to Rusty Greer.
It does, doesn't it?
Diving all over the place. What a play by Calhoun. So 2 outs, and here's Adrian Beltre again. Adrian takes a strike. Beltre tonight 0 for 3. Walked back in the 3rd. Other than that, has popped out, flied out, and struck out. Robinson Chirinos out at second base. Delino DeShields at first. 2 outs. 3 runs across for the Rangers. They lead it 7-6. Rangers had a comeback win last night, trailing early to the Angels. Now Alvarez wants to talk to Iannetta. Make sure they don't have any miscommunication. Now, while we have a second here, Progressives like to catch you up on the Rangers' upcoming schedule. Finish up here tomorrow against the Angels. Then back home for 10 days. Yankees for 4, the Giants for 3, and the Astros for 3. What a homestand that's going to be. And on the road to Seattle, Minnesota. Plenty of good tickets, folks, for that whole homestand. Make your plans now to come on out and catch the Rangers against some of the best in all of baseball. The Yankees, who are leading the Eastern Division. The Giants, of course, the defending world champions. And the Houston Astros.
Iannetta, Gio Vitello trying to put on a pickoff play to get Chirinos. Almost didn't work out too well.
Outside, 2-1 to Beltre. There have been a few Angel throws this evening that have not gotten there in the air. And we had a little trouble with it.
It's a little strange.
Infield shaded around to the left with Beltre up there. Popped up. Giovatello backpedaling, making the call and the catch. That will do it. But the Rangers come up with 3 runs on 4 hits. They leave 2. We're going to the bottom of the 8th. It's now the Rangers 7 and the Angels 6. Nick Martinez brings that 5-5 record, a 3.92 ERA this season against Andrew Haney, who is a perfect 4-0, a 1.57 ERA for the Angels. We'll be with you at 2:30 Central Time on Fox Sports Southwest, AT&T Universe, bringing you that information. Well, we head to the bottom of the 8th inning. Tanner Scheppers in to take over for the Rangers here in the 8th. Scheppers will face Gillespie, Iannetta, and Robertson. And the first pitch to Gillespie is in for strike one. Tanner Scheppers beleaguered at the moment. He has given up at least one run in each of his last 3 outings. Tanner trying to turn it around. Breaking ball, and a good one too. He went around. It is 0-2 to Gillespie. Scheppers last time out against Colorado gave up 4 runs in 1 inning. A couple of home runs. Ended up getting the win as he left the inning he had was a game tied. The Rangers came back to score 2 in the 9th inning to secure that win. There's a big strikeout. Boy, Gillespie just overmatched. And Scheppers gets the strikeout.
Look at the strikeout here of Gillespie. Nice pitch by Shep. Gillespie is the second hitter tonight and swung at a pitch that hit him. Very rarely see it happen once, let alone twice in a game.
Chris Iannetta 0 for 3 tonight. Ground out a couple of flyouts. Fastball and just off the outside corner. 2 balls, no strikes. Scheppers back to the plate, 3-0. Well, Iannetta hitting 8th in the order. He'll be followed by Daniel Robertson. 3-0 pitch. Did he go? No, he did not. And it is, that's ball 4. Yeah. Iannetta wasn't sure. Well, the 1-out walk puts the tying run aboard. And brings up Robertson. And Daniel Robertson now getting to be called back to the bench. We have one left-handed hitter, and that's Matt Joyce. Well, Robertson won't get it at bat tonight. He came in defensively for Kubica in the 8th inning. Matt Joyce is going to come off the bench as a pinch hitter. And we're going to have a pinch runner down at first base. It'll be Taylor Featherston for the Angels. He'll be carrying the tying run. And Mike Maddox out of the Ranger dugout. He will go out and talk things over with Tanner Scheppers and Robinson Chirinos. Go over the scouting report they had on Matt Joyce. Just make sure that everybody remembers what the information was.
Matt Joyce is a dangerous hitter. He's got some pop in his bat, so Mike Maddox wants to make sure that they throw him the way that they're supposed to throw him, what the book says.
Joyce, the numbers not pretty for him this year. 179, the average, 5 home runs, 21 RBI. Joyce in an 0 for 21 streak. 0 for 3 in his career against Tanner Scheppers. 1 on, 1 out. Featherston at first. Tanner Scheppers to the plate. 0-1. Matt Joyce is a pinch hitter this year, just 1 for 7. Featherston with the lead. Scheppers misses just inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Tanner Shepard's trying to square things up this road trip. And he gets the call at the knees. Sinking fastball. It's 1-2. All the damage to Tanner of late has been on this road trip. 3 games, total of 2 innings worked. And he's allowed 7 runs on 8 hits.
This is a situation where Tanner wants to keep the ball away from Matt Joyce. He's going to do some damage. He's going to have to do it the opposite way.
Breaking ball in the dirt. Nice stop by Chirinos. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Yeah, and that's what hurt Tanner Shepard the other day in Colorado. Carlos Gonzalez, the only ball that he was going to do damage was middle of the plate in, and that's exactly where Tanner left it.
Right.
And Gonzalez hit it in the seats to tie the ball game. 3-run home run.
Joyce has had a few years of double-digit home runs, so he's got some pop.
The 2-2 from Shepard. Chopper over the mound, slowly hit. Only play for Odor is the first. Joyce is out into scoring position. Featherston. And it will be the top of the order now. Johnny Giovatello coming to the plate. He got the ground ball. It just wasn't sharply hit enough to try and get the double play.
Joyce kind of jammed himself there. A little nice chopper out to Odor, turned it over for 1. Got the second out of the inning.
Well, here's Giovatello, who is 2 for 3 tonight. He has walked, singled, and tripled, scored a run, also flied to right field. Average at 269 as he faces Shepard. First pitch to him. Breaking ball in the dirt. And again, Robinson Chirinos able to hit his chest protector in front of that. 1 ball, no strikes. Giovatello 0 for 2 in previous matchups with Tanner Shepard. Taylor Featherston, the pinch runner out at second base, carrying the tying run. Rangers on top 7-6 here in the 8th. There's a good breaking ball that nibbles on the outside corner for a strike.
That's a good pitch by Shepard. Right now, I think what the Angels are looking for, they're obviously going to be looking for something hard from Tanner Shepard. Anybody that comes in out of the bullpen throwing 97, 98 miles an hour, that's the pitch that you're looking to hit. You're not worried about the off-speed pitches, but for Tanner to be able to drop that curveball in, that's a great pitch.
That one stayed high. Giovatello lays off it. 2-1. If you hang one to Giovatello, he has enough power to hit it out of the ballpark. Big thing is you need to make him swing the bat because the guys following are not the ones you want to face in a close game. 2-1 pitch. Good breaking ball. 2-2.
Chirinos called for down and away. Shep put it right there on him. Nothing Giovatello could do with that one. And right now, Giovatello has no idea what Shep is going to throw him.
I got to believe it's going to be another breaking ball if he hasn't shown the ability to either hit it or lay off it if it's close.
Hit it, foul it off, anything. So, yeah. Yes.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Tying run out at second base in the bottom of the 8th inning. Shepard's okays the sign to the plate. Breaking ball got him swinging. Giovatello couldn't help himself. Shepard works around a walk. The Angels strand a runner. We're going to the 9th here in Anaheim. The Angels trailing the Rangers 7-6. And Mike Morin has come out of the Angel bullpen. He will take over. He saw Morin also last night for 2/3 of an inning. Morin, the 7th pitcher used by the Angels tonight. Hector Santiago started. Then it's been Salas, Ramos, Gott, Smith, Alvarez, and now Morin. Mike Morin, 28th game of the year. And it will be a whole new battery as Carlos Perez comes in to take over behind the plate after Chris Iannetta was pinch run for. And also out in left field, Matt Joyce, who pinch hit, stays in the ball game and will play left. Here's Prince Fielder leading things off against Morin. The big fella lets it rip and fouls it straight back, 0-1. Fielder tonight is 1 for 3. Walked in the first, singled in the 5th inning. There's that changeup that is the hallmark of Mike Morin's work. Throws hard, has a great changeup. And it's a swing and miss changeup.
That's not fair.
No.
Not fair at all. Prince probably could have taken 2 swings on that one.
Might have felt like he'd had. 0-2 for Morin. There it is again. And Prince down on strikes. Next will be Elvis Andrus. Morin grew up in the Kansas City area, in the Kansas side of the metropolitan area, out of Leawood, Kansas. Went to North Carolina, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Selected in the 13th round of the 2012 player draft. Chopper by Elvis on 2 hops, out to Ibar, 2 gone. 2 up, 2 away. Mitch Moreland now will get a second at bat in this ball game.
4 pitches from Morin, 2 quick outs. You know, a guy that comes in that's got a devastating changeup like that, nice fastball, straight fastball. When he throws it, if it's in that area, in that zone, you want to go ahead and swing at it. You don't necessarily have to get up there and sit and take it and wait for that changeup. That's not the pitch you really want to hit.
Sean Tollison joined by Wandy Rodriguez in that Ranger bullpen. I think Wandy's probably just getting some work in down there. Unless the Rangers were to score 3 or 4 runs. Wandy might get in the ball game. If it's not a save situation, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think you're about right. He hasn't pitched yet in the second half, so gotta have him ready.
0-1 to Mitch. That's probably one of those changeups that he could tell you it's going to come, and you can't do much about it.
You know, that changeup is pretty much like Mariano Rivera's cutter was.
Yeah.
You know it's coming, not a thing you can do about it. You tell yourself not to swing at it, but it's there, it's blinking, and you swing, and you're still about 2 days early.
You get 195 just to let you know there's a little extra there if you have any thought of waiting a long time.
95 to 74. Should be a rule. You should only allow 10 miles per hour difference between pitches. That's it.
Right. Pitch just off the outside corner. Mitch thought about it several times when the pitch was on the way. Ronnie said, nah.
You know, that's what makes that changeup tough. It's diving away from you, running away from that left-hand hitter.
Now the 2-2 for Morin. Couple of strikeouts in the inning and a ground ball. It's a 1-2-3 frame. We're going to go to the ninth. It's going to be Sean Tollison coming in. Rangers leading the Angels 7-6. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. By AT&T UVerse TV. UVerse has more live TV channels on the go than cable. And by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer to kick off the summer right. Ford is the best in Texas. Now for the second straight night now, Sean Tollison on in relief. Matter of fact, for the fourth straight game, Sean Tollison has entered in the last inning. Last two nights, he has picked up a save. Now has 16 in 17 opportunities. Tollison in his 42nd appearance of the year. And he will have to wade through the heart of the Angel order. Leonis Martin enters the ball game, takes over in center field. In the outfield, Hamilton in left, Martin in center, Chu is in right. And here's Cole Calhoun, who is 2 for 4. Check swing foul. It is 0-1. Calhoun has 3 RBI tonight.
Well, this is what a closer is for. You've got the game on the line. You've got the heart of the Angels order coming up. This is what makes this job such a difficult job.
And just 1 run separating you and them. Elvis charging, flips it out at first base. Nice play by Elvis. Had to go on the first base side of the bag to the bag at second, make that flip. And matter of fact, he was closer to the first base line when he made that flip than he was to second.
He was. This is a tough play. Elvis is playing the shift about 5 feet on the second base side, but he's got to come a long way. Calhoun chopped this ball, and Elvis is running full speed and has to bend over to get that ball and then make a perfect flip over to first base to Moreland to barely get Calhoun for the first out. Big out.
Boy, huge. Now here's Mike Trout, who's 2 for 4. Strike 1. Trout singled in each of his first 2 at-bats. Since then, he has grounded out and struck out. Tollison didn't face Trout last night. Pretty good breaking ball there, and all of a sudden Trout down in the count, no balls, 2 strikes. Last night, when Tollison came in to get the save, he faced Ibar, Crone, and Iannetta. This inning, he has already faced Calhoun. He's facing Trout. Pujols is next. And if he gets those 3 in order, you don't have to worry about Ibar or anybody else. He can take it on into the hotel. Get a good night's sleep, come back out and try to make it a sweep tomorrow. 0-2 pitch. Elvis imports the throw. Trout is shot down. 2 gone, and here comes Pujols.
Pitching by Tollison so far. Hitting his spots the way that he needs to. Elvis is playing over in the hole. Gets Trout to roll over a little bit. Elvis charges. Lets that cannon loose.
Elvis has had both plays in the inning and both distinctly different plays for a shortstop.
Well, you look at where he started, about 35 feet off the line of third base on that one from Trout, and on Calhoun, he's up behind second base on the second base side of the infield.
2 outs, bases empty. Here's Albert Pujols, 1 out of 4. That breaking ball, a pretty good breaking ball from Tollison, but it was just outside. Pujols doubled and scored in the 5th. Other than that, he has grounded out, which created a run, and flied out a couple of times. 1-0 pitch. Line into left field, a base hit. And the Angels have the tying run aboard with 2 outs here in the 9th inning. And Eric Ibar coming up. Pujols' second hit of the night.
Tollison trying to go inside, down and in. Gets it inside, actually breaks Pujols' bat, but he's a big, strong man. He's able to muscle that ball out in the left field for a single.
Well, Pujols aboard, and unless you want to go to a pitcher, Mike Scioscia doesn't have any more players left on his bench. He has used everybody up all 4 extras that he's had. So Pujols stay in the ball game and try to motor around the base paths if Ibar can drive him around. Ibar tonight 1 for 2 officially with a couple of walks. Had an RBI single in the 5th. 1 ball, no strikes. That changeup on the first pitch. Mentioned Ibar faced Hollison last night. First man that Sean faced, and Ibar skied to center field in the 9th inning. Rangers winning last night's ball game 4-2. They lead 7-6 here tonight. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Back-to-back changeups. 1-1.
Not a bad pitch. Keeping it down in the zone.
That has to look like a fastball to Ibar coming in there.
Oh, there's no question. That's one of the toughest pitches to hit. For me, it was definitely anything that looked like a fastball I was going to swing. And that's exactly what that changeup looks like.
Fly ball to center field. This ought to do it. Leonis Martin camped under it, and that is a winner. As for the second straight night, the Rangers have come from behind in Anaheim.